Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll upload it.
Yes.
So, hello, everybody. Wait, let me.
We're going back to Burning Man.
Woohoo! Those of you who just have your names or your pictures on the screen, feel free to open up your video. We can try to pretend that we're actually all here together, which we like to do, and we have several of our presenters gathered here in my house so that we can make it as up close and personal as we can. I'm Sassy Cat, sometimes known as Lisa. I guess I'm gonna be your MC, kind of along with Ruby, and he and I are both monitoring the Zoom, looking for things that you might be saying in the chat. As we go along, if you have questions, you can either jump up like this and Ruby will see you, better to type it in the chat, or if you know how to use the hand raising thing, you can raise your hand and we'll notice you at some point. And this is being recorded, and we're gonna actually turn the recording hopefully into a resource that the community will be able to use going forward. So if you don't want your face showing up on a recording that we publish, just put that information in the chat and we'll make sure that we don't show you when we publish this. I'm gonna turn it over to Water, who prepared our introduction for today. And yeah, and I have a copy of the agenda, like the high level agenda when you get to that point. Not yet. You were gonna do overview of the evening, house rules in your first turn story. So, house rules, yeah. So house rules we're doing Zoom, so you don't need to.
And house and water out. That's what's going on. No, thanks for switching it at the last minute to Zoom. I'm a little bummed, but here we are. We're still together in a different format, 2-dimensional this time, 2-dimensional. Okay, so I was gonna share my first burn experience.
Yeah.
So I had no idea, okay, what I was getting myself into. I really didn't, and I was told we were going camping. I had a boyfriend who said, let's go camping. In my mind, camping was pine trees and maybe a forest stream. So I was teaching at ASU at the time, and so couldn't really miss the first week of a semester. So I took off for 3 days and took an airplane to Reno, took the Burner Express bus through a nice, well, you know, it was just kind of a Greyhound. It was kind of nice. I'm, you know, wearing my regular street clothes. I didn't know what I was getting into. I got a little suitcase. And then we switched somewhere and get on this rickety bus, which so I came from corporate America, okay? So it was like, I didn't want to get my
Weird. This is a lot different on the phone than as
mentally.
my desktop.
Oh, okay. And so anyway, we get there and everybody who was on the bus was like kind of saying, we're home, and getting all crazy. And I'm like, what are these people doing? This is a true story. And I look out the window and there's nothing green there. And I was like, I don't know. What kind of camping is this? I have to be here for 3 days. And the first person I saw was a naked man. And I was like, oh, there's a naked man. And it was like, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna be real quiet here. And I'm like, I walked in and I'm like, I was in shock. So I think, you know, being a little prepared would have been a little helpful. You didn't read it, but you know, if you know me at all, if I could prepare for anything, I probably wouldn't do it. So, you know, I'm glad I did, because by the third day, I kind of understood. And the last day, like, okay, I'm understanding this a little bit or not. I don't know if I even still understand it, but I like it. I don't know what it is, but it's, you know, what I really liked about it was was, first of all, everybody saying hi to me was too weird, and people trying to hug me was way too weird. But what I really liked was I saw immediately the effort, the amazing human capacity all at one thing, and that's what got me. That's what took my heart there. It was the working together, the capacity, and then the letting go. And I was like, ooh. And then when I walked into the temple, I'll talk about the temple later, but when I walked into the temple, it's a whole other story. That sealed the deal for me. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Cool. Thank you. So that was our welcome. Here, we'll come back over here. Oops.
No house rules today.
Yeah, just so the people who are in the house are actually speakers and members of the kind of local board, just so we could, do our best to be together and have some fun while we present to you. So for those of you who are in the house, there is a water dispenser behind if you go through the kitchen, go through the door to the laundry room, it's right behind that door. There's a little bit of food on the table. We'll probably order a pizza later. So, and there's also costume exchange. And if you just go down that hall, in the first door to your right, after you go down that hall, there's a whole bunch of stuff that ultimately will end up, whatever's not taken today will end up at Playa. Okay, so let me tell you what you're in store for this evening. We don't have too many on. We're going to have a lot more, I think, if we were in person, and we are recording, like I said. So thank you, everybody who's here. Here's our agenda that we're going to be going through, and I have a slide for it, but we've got enough slides probably later. The first thing we're going to talk about is just a bit of what the experience is at Burning Man, kind of helping you set your expectations. I'll say that no matter what your expectations are, they'll get blown away once you get there. But we'll do our best to help you with that now. We'll talk a little bit about the culture. The biggest section in this event is about life at Burning Man. Everything from what you're going to be living in, to the clothes you wear, to the food you eat, to hanging out in the city or on the playa, and all the things about life at Burning Man. Then we'll move into like the before and after, getting yourself there and what to expect when you are ready to leave and then get home. And then a few other things at the end, like decompressing and resources for you and things like that. So we have a really, really big agenda for you. I get to start off by talking just a little bit about what it is and what it isn't. How many of you think, how many of you are this is going to be your first time going to, well, maybe not to a burn, but to the big burn in Black Rock City? Awesome. Yay, I'm so excited for you. So excited for you. Woohoo. And maybe you've been thinking about it as in telling people, oh, I'm going to a festival. Because the way that a lot of people describe Burning Man, right, it's in this category called festival. But it's kind of anything but. When I think about a festival, and when most of us think about festivals, usually you're going somewhere and you're going to be entertained and you've paid your tickets, and the festival promoter is the one that's got the lineup of music and provides the venue and sells you merchandise and sells you food and sells you booze and maybe even sells you, the ability to camp in a fancy, right, do some glamping or whatever. Burning Man is not that, and I'm going to share a slide with you just to give you a little flavor of what that looks like. There, I think that. Let's try this. All right, so now let me do this and see if it works. There, woohoo! So, that's our agenda. That's all right. So this.
Lisa, you're in presenter view. Can you switch to, because we can see your notes.
Got it. Got it. Stop the share. Let me see how I can do this. Hold on. Try this one. Share. There. How's that? Ruby, you got it now?
No, black screen right now.
My screen sharing is paused. Okay. Let's try this again. If it doesn't work, then I'm just going to talk you through it rather than being fancy about it. Let's try this. No, it says my screen sharing is paused for some reason. So we won't worry about it. It was a cool slide anyways.
You can go back to presenter mode. It's just your notes and stuff on the side. The presenter view that you had.
That's all right. I can't seem to get out of, hold on one sec, there. Do you see anything now?
Just you.
Just me. Aw,
Yeah.
just me.
Just you. Fabulous, but just you.
Okay, so let's just see if I can do, normally I'm not working with mirror. And if it doesn't work this time, I will definitely get out of here. What we want. So share my screen. Let's try this. How's that? Ruby, is that working?
Yes.
Perfect. Satellite photo of Burning Man
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah, there you go. Looks great.
All right, so this is, you may have seen some, some renditions of Black Rock City map. Well, this is an actual satellite photo of Burning Man from 2019, which was the last year that the event officially happened. You'll notice that it's shaped kind of like a U. You might call it a C, but think about it instead as a clock, with the 10 o'clock of the clock right where right where. If you can see my cursor, I've got it right over here where the 10 o'clock of the clock would be, and then go around and you've got 2 o'clock, and so you figure out, so everything in this kind of inside the thick C is all what we call Black Rock City. That's the place where you'll live, and Armella is going to talk in a little while about your living situation. You find streets, so the where you live is going to be designated by where you are on the clock. So 10 o'clock or 9:45 or 9 or 2 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 3:45 or 3:30, right? Go around the clock. And then in the center here is 6. And then the street names, the intersections, every year are based on the theme of the event. And they start with A after Esplanade, and they go through the letter K or L, depending on the year. This year, it's Apparition, Breton. I'm living on Inception and 9 o'clock. So your address will be where you are on the clock, cross-section with where you are in the letters. I started out by talking about Burning Man as, not a festival, but an event, and the event is put on really by all of us who are going. It's put on by the volunteers. It's put on by the theme camps, which you'll visit inside the city. It's put on by the people who've built and drive their mutant vehicles, maybe giving you a ride or an art tour, getting you from one place to another, all lit up in the nighttime. It's put on by the artists who you will find incredible art all through this area that's outside the city that we call the Playa. And you will find your way all over the place, seeing the amazing art, interacting with artists of all types, There's artists in camps, there's artists who are not in camps, there's artists who build big art, there's artists who do anything from drawing to photography while we're there. And then there's all the rest of the individual participants who interact and who bring their own game. You're gonna hear from Nurse Tata over to my left over here. They're not part of a theme camp, but you should go visit them because they give you, what is it, bad cologne?
Cheap cologne and compliments.
Yeah, go over to visit them for cheap cologne and compliments. So everybody brings the game that they want to play with everybody else, and it's really, really cool. You will learn your way around the playa. I am going to pass it back to Water, who's going to talk a bit about the culture. Oh, I guess the other thing was the man. You will find the man right over in the center of the clock, and you will find the temple at 12 o'clock. The man is what gets burned on Saturday night. The temple will be, for me, it's the most spiritual place I've ever visited in my life. And you will find prayers and wishes and quiet and an unbelievable just connection with yourself and others there. And the temple burns on Sunday night. So that's kind of a lay of the land. And now I'm going to give it back to Water. I'm going to stop sharing my slides so that she can talk to us.
Lisa, would you like, I think you said we need to keep it to under 10 minutes per topic.
Yes,
Would you like me to give a 9-minute warning to any to the speakers?
that would be awesome, Ruby. Thank you.
Cool.
The main thing you're talking about is the temperance. Okay. Yeah, the culture of Burning Man as described by the 10 principles plus consent.
All right. You wanna switch the camera?
Yes.
All right. Hello. We are going to talk about the 10 principles of Burning Man, which is the culture. So it's not this is right from the Burning Man website. The principles are not a dictate of how people should be and act, but it's a reflection of the ethos and culture as it has been organically developed over time. So, and these 10 principles are, it's just the culture, and the culture of Burning Man is just not at this event. It's taking these principles into your day-to-day living. And I think there's a lot of us who are doing that now. But I'm going to go over what the 10 principles are. The first one is radical inclusion. And the definition is anyone may be part of Burning Man. We welcome and respect the stranger. No prerequisites exist for participation in our community. So it's everybody. And everybody is included. There's no restrictions at the event and as in your heart. Now, it does stop at your tent door. So whatever you want in your tent is up to you. But radical inclusion is looking at everyone as you are welcome. And that is a culture of the burn. The next one is gifting. Burning Man is devoted to acts of gift giving. The value of a gift is unconditional. Gifting does not contemplate a return or an exchange for something of equal value. And I think gifting is very misunderstood. Gifting doesn't actually have to be a thing. It can be what do you have as a gift? Do you play music? Do you do art? Do you make food? What is your gift that you are giving? And it's like a gift is a gift. It's not an expectation of a return. Yeah. All right, the next one is decommodification. In order to preserve the spirit of gifting, our community seeks to create social environments that are unmediated by commercial sponsorships, transactions, or advertising. We stand ready to protect our culture from such exploitation. We resist the substitution of consumption for participatory experience. At Burning Man, you're not going to see vendors like at a festival. This is what really, I think, separates Burning Man from the festival culture is there's nothing to buy. You get a ticket, you get in. Everything is free. There's no advertising. You don't talk about your brand. You don't wear your brand clothing. It's not about that. So it's all about just showing up and being you. We don't have to commodify everything. I mean, I think especially in the US, we're used to, sponsored by. There is no sponsored by. This is participation, which is one of our principles that we'll get to in a minute. The next one is radical self-reliance. Burning Man encourages the individual to discover, exercise, and rely on their inner resources. You got to bring everything that you need to survive. And it's also knowing your own resiliency. And, we are interdependent beings. So there are parts of us that can't do everything, but also part of your self-reliance is to ask when you need help. I can't lift a lot of heavy things. I need to bring things that I have to lift, and I want to be as self-reliant as possible. And part of that is asking for what I need. So, but it's also being as prepared and not relying on other people. People are going to gift me food. I don't have to bring it. No, it's being prepared on your own to be as self-sufficient as you can and relying on yourself and in everything that you do.
I wanted just to give you a heads up. You're at about you've got about 4 minutes left.
4 minutes. Radical self-expression. It arises from the unique gifts of the individual. No one has other than the individual or collaborating group can determine its content. It's offered as a gift to others. In this spirit, the giver should be respect the rights and liberties of the recipient. I do want to say about this, I always hear people say, bring your burning gear. Well, whatever that is to you, if you want to wear a suit and tie, wear a suit and tie. If that's how you want to express yourself any way you want. It's just all is welcome. Next, communal effort. Our community values creative cooperation and collaboration. We strive to produce, promote, and protect social networks, public spaces, works of art, and methods of communication that support such interaction. This is working together. Civic responsibility. We value civil society. Community members who organize events should assume responsibility for public welfare and endeavor to communicate civic responsibilities to participants. They also assume responsibility for conducting events in accordance with local, state, and federal laws. The short version is be responsible.
Remember, you're in a community.
You're in a
You can
community.
be radically self-reliant,
So
radically
yeah, so
self-expressed. but
these
you're part of
all
a community.
kind of work together. There's nothing like really separate with all of these. And then the next one is leaving no trace. Our community respects the environment. We are committed to leaving no physical trace of our activities wherever we gather. It's really important to comb your camp when you're leaving. We clean up after ourselves and endeavor whenever possible to leave such places in a better state than when we found them. This is hiking up a notch. Participation. Our community is committed to radically participatory ethic. We believe that transformative change, whether the individual or in society, can occur only through the medium of deeply personal participation. We achieve being through doing. Everyone is invited to work. Everyone is invited to play. We make the world real through actions that open the heart. This is one of my favorites. I love this. It's like, it's really personable. There's no organizers. You are the burn. Last one, immediacy. Immediate experience is in many ways the most important touchstone of value in our culture. We seek to overcome barriers that stand between us and a recognition of our inner selves, the reality of those around us, participation in society, and contact with a natural world exceeding human powers. No idea can substitute for this experience. And that is the 10 principles.
One bit about, we need, so in Arizona, we have also included consent as one of the principles. It's kind of, you know, implied, but it's important to be explicit about it.
Do you want to talk about consent?
For a minute, yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you're not comfortable with it, I'm sure that.
Well, you know, consent, it's an express agreement. It's more than sexuality. It's my stuff, my body, my the things that I see. Yes, things that you know, I don't want to hear your story, that kind of thing. It's right now, there, even in talks of consent, it's a really expressive yes. It's not just a maybe. It's yes, absolutely, you can go through my bag. It's yes, absolutely, I want to have sex with you, and I only want to do these things, and you list them out. Now, what if you're not able to express yourself? There's people who are. So how do you stay safe? And we're going to talk about that a little later, right? We'll talk about that a little bit more. But just being aware of consent as a culture, it's part of civic responsibility. It's part of immediacy. It's part of all the principles is wrapped up in consent. But we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Thank you.
All right, we're at 10 minutes, folks, and Scotto has his hand raised.
Yeah.
I do. It is so great to see so many of you headed to Burning Man for the first time.
Hey, wait. Scotto, who the hell are you?
Just a old buzzard who's been to, this will be Burning Man number 24. Very excited. I put in the chat, Burning Man will change your life. You just don't know how yet. And everything you take to Burning Man, including yourself, will never be the same. Those are absolutes. I've been around for a long time. I'm going to pop in and out between speakers. I'm going to make sure that several things get covered. Great to lead in with the principles. You don't need to raise your hand, but are there any friends of Bill W. in the house? And I ask that because it's important to know that even though Burning Man is a 29-hour-a-day party for a week, you can do Burning Man sober. There are camps hosting meetings for whatever it is that your particular needs are. So it's very important to know that you can do Burning Man sober.
Thanks, Scotto. So next up, now it's time for us to talk about life at Burning Man. And so we're going to cover your living situation, your clothing situation, your eating situation, how to prepare yourself to go out and about and explore during the day and the evening, health and hygiene, a little bit about COVID safety, and maybe we'll throw monkeypox safety in there too. The whole subject of sex and drugs at Burning Man, because everybody's heard all kinds of stuff. Scotto has already busted one of the myths. And then, you know, what to do if you need help. So Rat Lady, Danny's going to talk about the role of the Rangers. Kara is going to talk about the role of ESS. She's also going to talk about kids at Burning Man. There are many. And then we'll talk about gifting and volunteering. And Arizona Burner Meetup. So those are all the things we've got to talk about for life at Burning Man. When we hit 6 o'clock, we're gonna take just a 10-minute stretch our legs break. So we're not sitting here forever and we, you know, not to miss anything. So now I'm gonna turn it over to Armella, who's gonna talk about, I'm sorry. Ruby, oh, now we're gonna turn it over to Ruby, who's gonna talk to us about your living situation.
All right. Hey, everyone. Okay, so one thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm going to share the page real quickly here. A lot of what we're talking about here you can find on our website. The website is azburners.org, and right on the front page will be a link to the Newbie Orientation, which is a page I'm sharing right now. We've got the agenda up there, but the resources and all that stuff here. The first thing I'm going to talk about is your living situation. And may I ask somebody else to time me, because if and give me like an 8-minute warning on each of my topics. Is somebody ready to time me? All right, thanks, Scotto. All right, so living situation. Oh, drives me nuts with the burnier than thou crowd telling you you're doing it wrong if you're doing X or Y. There is no such thing. Do what's comfortable for you, do what works for you. There are people in RVs, there are people in $20 Walmart tents. Now, how comfortable you will be, you are will vary. And so there's that. RVs and trailers are certainly very popular. I remember Cruise America said it's probably their busiest weekend of the year, by far. The Indy 500 is the next busiest.
Ruby, 1 second, do you still mean to be sharing your screen?
Yes, because I'm going to jump across to something when I get to that point. Now, one thing I would caution you, if you're going to go out in an RV, prepping that RV and not bringing it back looking like the playa is inside the RV will save you many, many hundreds, possibly thousands of dollars. So spend the time taping every opening down. We often do that on the way into playa. Climb up on top, you tape over the sunlights that you pop open, tape over the windows and reseal them. Just take the painter's tape so that you're not going to have any difficulty in residue when you take it off. But inside the RV, cover everything you can. If you've got some old carpet, lay down as much of it as possible. Then at the end of the event, on your way back, and when you're ready to clean, you just take all that stuff out and dispose of it responsibly. And that'll really help you with cleanup. Also, if you have an RV, find a truck wash and drive it through the truck wash. Way easier than coming back to 110 degrees and humidity in Phoenix and trying to wash your RV back at your house. A couple of other things, you're sharing this RV with people, set your ground rules, communicate beforehand. What are each of you bringing? How much space do you need? How are you going to handle the fridge and storage within it? They're pretty small. You've got a limited amount of water and gray water and black water tanks in an RV. Set up your rules, like, are you going to use the potty all the time? I got to warn you, there are pump and dump services on Playa, super hard to get them to actually come to you. You have to basically flag somebody down and pay them ridiculous amounts of money most of the time to get them to pump your RV out. So be very conservative with your use of your RV toilets and showers. You won't be able to refresh your water unless you've set that up ahead of time. So do prepare for all of that. Also, if you're sharing your RV with non-family, come up with your rules for inviting visitors in or overnight guests. So do figure that out. And whenever possible, you want that door closed. You don't want to leave the door open, because 1 minute it'll be perfectly clear, the next minute it'll be a whiteout, and that whiteout will be inside your RV. Most of us do tents. this will be my 22nd year, I think, considering that we can't count the last 2 years. And I still tent it. Now, I moved from a Walmart nylon tent back in the day to a Kodiak 10 by 10 canvas tent with an air conditioner. I'm old. I need some creature comforts. So I did want to point out that I have a link here to some options that are out there. Shift pods are really popular these days. They're just expensive as hell. I've got a little video there that walks you through the way I set mine up. I'm fortunate I'm in a camp that has power. It's expensive, but I'm at the point in my life where I do appreciate the creature comforts. And I'm also too old to survive on, 3 hours of sleep before that sun comes up. Now, this tent here was my old setup. It was a Walmart $100 tent that actually had 3 interconnecting domes. I used to use 2, and one was my bedroom tent, and one was my changing room, storage, whatever tent. You'll notice if you look carefully here that I've got what's called radiant barrier. It's like basically insulation material. And I would definitely put that on the east side of your tent and over the top because you want to get as little sun hitting you as possible in the mornings. When you set up your tent, you also want to, if you're next to an RV, you want to see where the generator exhaust is, and you absolutely do not want to set up somewhere near that generator exhaust. So things like that to watch out for. You want to anchor it down because our playa winds can get up to 100 miles an hour at times. So in the past, we used rebar, and these poles that you see, pool noodles that you see, are straight rebar pounded into the ground with the pool noodle slipped over it, and zip ties to hold it down. These days, many of us have switched over to what are called lag bolts, and you bring a power drill with a 18-inch lag bolt, and I stick 18-inch lag bolts on the 4 corners and 12-inch lag bolts in between. Super quick and way easier to drill in and drill out. These are shift pods. They're really neat, little expensive. They're kind of hard to find around this time of the year because all them damn burners are buying them up. You can look on Craigslist and places like that. Sometimes you find them. These are called yurts. They're made out of insulating foam, and they do really well, but you do need some sort of air circulation inside. Many people who set up shift pods are in camps that have generators and run air conditioners. This page that's linked again, I said, has photos. You can jump in there, different ideas and tips and tricks for installation. There's also, I mentioned an air conditioner. I have a window mount air conditioner that I drop into the back door of my tent and tape around it. For many years before that, I used a battery-powered fan and a Homer bucket swamp cooler. There's a link right there on how to make one. It probably took me about an hour's worth of work, and it was pretty decent. Playa, I got to tell you, and Scott will testify, it's gotten warmer. It used to be freezing cold at nights, and my complaint these days, it's too cold for me to wear my fur coat, too warm for me to wear my fur coat for most of the night. And so getting by on that swamp cooler, homemade swamp cooler, worked really well for a few years, not so much these days. So I would caution you about that.
8 minutes.
Thank you, Scotto. I've got a couple of other things here about coolers, playa bikes, and other stuff. So do feel free to read through that and let me know if you have any questions. Shade makes a huge difference. An easy up is known as an easy down because the first wind that comes through is going to rip that thing apart. Some of the better shades are things like the Costco carports. They're really solid. They weigh a ton and take up a lot of space, but they're really, really well built. a more space efficient option is kind of what they use at, what are they called? This type of shade, swap meets and stuff like that. There is a company in West Phoenix that sells these. They're made galvanized steel posts with connectors in between, and either solid tarp or more often shade cloth over the top. And you can interconnect these things and make whatever shape and size you like. Some camps will create communal shade and under which people put their tents. Now, if you've got shade with a bit of an air gap and then your tent, it's a night and day difference with how livable that tent is during the day. All right, let's see. I bathe every day. I cannot deal without a shower. Now, water is not allowed on the playa because the mud that it creates becomes a massive mess. So you've got to be super careful about how to do it. Many people will bring a kiddie pool and their gray water goes in there, and then you've got to figure out how you're going to evaporate it or pump it out and take it home with you. Many options out there. I've got some links off my packing list that I'll be talking about on how to do that. Some camps offer big tanks into which you bring your own shower water and you have your shower. But the best thing I would recommend everybody consider taking is one of those pump sprayers that you use for weed, like Home Depot pump sprayers, where you put your weed killer and stuff into it. Obviously, buy a new one, a clean one, and use it. But I thought I was an absolute genius when I came up with this idea of putting fresh water in there, spritzing myself down and all that, then realized that for years, Scotto's camp and their human carcass wash, which Scotto, if you wouldn't mind at the end of this, briefly mention that, has been using it for many, many years.
That's 10,
it.
Ruby.
That's it. And Scotto, do you want to talk about the human carcass wash?
I absolutely would, but can you please go back to your main page there?
Yes, sir. Newbie Orientation. Here we go.
Excellent. And scroll up. There you go. One of the most important pieces of info is the directions.
I think they're covering that, Scotto. There's a different Getting to Burning Man section.
Awesome.
Right.
Then I will wait to comment on that later. Let's talk about the carcass wash. The carcass wash is an interactive washing experience. You help wash others, and then you get washed yourself. We average about 500 people a day that come and enjoy the carcass wash in a 2-hour period. Village of Poly Paradise, 9:15, and F Fugue will be the side for the carcass wash. I think in 2011, P. Diddy, who went to Burning Man, went to the carcass wash and wrote an article. He said it was the best shower at Burning Man.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right. All right. The next thing, and I don't need to share this, but so the next thing I get to talk about is clothing. So again, there is no right and wrong way to do this. One of the most incredible contributors to Burning Man is a guy named David Best. He's the guy who came up with the concept for the temple and built the first amazing Temple of Tears, which was the first time I was moved to tears at Burning Man. He stands there in his polo t-shirt, a gallon jug of water, and his blue jeans, and he stands by this amazing creation and talks about it all day with anyone who's willing to listen. And I cannot even begin to describe the impact he has had on the burner community. That's a man in jeans, sneakers, and a polo shirt. But many of us choose to go and do anything from walking around naked to costuming and getting all dressed up. Now, if you want to walk around naked, that's perfectly fine. It's up to you. Just remember there's certain parts of your body that you don't want to get sunburned. there are also parts of your body that don't have any natural protection against the sun. Your lips, your nipples. Use as much sunblock as you can on that stuff because you do not want that stuff to get sunburned. I'm sure you'll be talking, Rat Lady will be talking about health, and she'll talk a little bit more about that. Costumes are really where a lot of people go. They use this as your opportunity to step out of your comfort zone, play around with stuff. Where do you get costumes? Do not spend money buying stuff new. It'll never look new ever again. Thrift stores are awesome. Look on offer-ups and garage sales and all sorts of things. You can find amazing stuff. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty sure all the thrift stores in my neighborhood have me on a watch list because I'm shopping in the women's section. The guys, they're boring as fuck. But the women's section has really fun stuff. Hey, you never tried a wedding dress on? Get a wedding dress and wear it on Playa sometime. Or leggings or whatever you want. Oh, TikTok pants are a thing. Butt lifting. Some of us at our age need butt lifting and every bit of help we can get. So all of that's an option. Now, think about weather though. The daytime's miserably hot and the nighttime temps will drop 20, 30 degrees within a few hours, depending on the year. So be prepared for that. I know Lisa's going to talk about a backpack that you carry with you. I always carry something to keep me warm because that 5-minute walk to the porta potty might end up being a 9-hour adventure that takes me into the night. So do be prepared for stuff like that. Nighttime, another thing that's nice to have is a faux fur coat, a fake fur coat. You can find those at thrift stores and they're not very expensive, but they're awesome. Let's see, what else did I want to mention? Layers are definitely helpful, particularly the last few years. I'll be walking around in next to nothing for the first few hours, and then suddenly at this magical time of the night, it'll go from being really comfortable to really cold. So don't get caught out in the middle of nowhere, bare-bodied and unprepared, because it will get cold. Do prepare for that. Now, one word of caution with costumes and whatever you're wearing, you'll hear the term moop thrown around a lot, matter out of place, basically trash and litter. Do not wear costumes that shed. For many years, feathers were banned. Unfortunately, that ban is no longer in place. You'll find a lot of people wearing feathers. They fall off. I don't know how anyone thinks that that won't happen. Glitter is horrendous. These boas made out of fake feathers and stuff, they shed like crazy. Even the fake fur and these sort of dangly stuff, beads, things like that, make sure they're really secure if you're wearing any of those costumes, because you don't want that littering the playa. My camp is typically on, it's a Camp Walter. We're usually on the Esplanade, and we're responsible not just for our camp, but 200 yards out from our camp. On Sunday, we're on our hands and knees sifting through the dust, and we collect so much stuff. It's incredible. So please be careful. Shoes and boots are really important. They may be the coolest looking pair of boots or shoes. If you haven't put miles of them here before going to Playa, do not wear them on Playa for the first time. Break them in. Make sure you're not going to end up with feet that are bleeding at the end of the day by trying out this really cool pair of shoes for the first time on Playa, or the first time since you tried them on at the shoe store or wherever. I like boots, and I know Rat Lady is going to talk to you about Playa foot and feet. A lot of people walk around barefooted. I have delicate feet. My feet will be bleeding by the end of the first day because of that Playa alkali-rich soil, and most of us will probably be in that same boat, unless you're a happy hippie who walks around barefooted on Arizona asphalt. You're going to need to take care of your feet. Scott taught me something many, many years ago. He said, socks. Buy a shit ton of socks. I plan for a minimum of 2 pairs of socks a day, typically 3. I'll change them out, lotion my feet and put them back in again. It makes a night and day difference. Hats, daytime you want shade, nighttime you want to, if you're like Mike and myself and you're follically challenged, you need to keep your head warm. You lose a lot of heat from up there. Even when I sleep at night, I've got a loose beanie that I wear over my head because it's super comfortable if I go to sleep at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then suddenly 3 o'clock in the morning comes around and my head's freezing and I wake up. And then the last thing is lights. The playa is, there's a lot of light on the playa, but don't imagine that you are visible to an art car or somebody on a bicycle, and you don't want to get hit by somebody who doesn't see you. You want lights behind you, want lights in front of you, weave it into your costume, wear it like a necklace, wear it on your hat, figure something out. Our options for lights are infinite these days because LEDs are super bright and super battery efficient. If you wear a headlamp, that's awesome. Wear it around your neck pointing downwards. You don't want to wear it on your head and blind everybody you have a conversation with. Always make sure that it's pointing downwards and not into people's eyes. And if you have the red light option, use that. Costco's got an awesome 3-pack of lights right now. I want to say $15 for a 3-pack of headlamps. And it's got bright light, low white, bright white, and red. And I think blue, like a infrared type of thing. Probably useful for looking for scorpions in ultraviolet, sorry. Probably useful for looking for scorpions in Arizona. You're not going to find a lot of bugs on the playa. And dust masks and goggles. This actually is something I started doing a few years ago. I used to rip up my old t-shirts and just take enough for every day. But these neck gaiters, I just buy a 20-pack off of Amazon, and I always have a couple of these in my backpack. And if it's just mildly dusty, I'll put this on like this. If it's a whiteout, I just soak it with water and breathe through it. Now, I'm fortunate. I don't have asthma. I don't have lung issues right now. But if you've got that kind of breathing problem, you might want to look at respirators with interchangeable filters. You can find them in hardware stores and paint stores and things like that. If you've got breathing problems, please take care of yourself because that will be part of your clothing and work that into your costume. But that's going to be something you want to have with you all the time. All right, I'm done with clothing. Any questions or anyone want to share anything else? Desert Rose, you're up.
Hi, I lost connection. We're having a heck of a storm coming in right now, but and I don't know where we are in all of this. I just wanted to say that I'm the Leave No Trace focus person for Poly Paradise, still am. I haven't been around much, yay. And I will wonderfully have volunteers, I hope, on the final cleanup Sunday, or Scotto, if anybody's staying over Monday, also I'll organize that too. But I just wanted to let people, and I'm also bringing, I think we have a metal detector, but I'm also bringing another metal detector. So anyway, I just want to say I'm the focus person. If you have any questions, any concerns, volunteering, seek me out. I'm at Poly Paradise, and enjoy the burn.
Thank you. All right, anyone have any questions about clothing? All right, moving on to the next topic.
Don't wear any.
Don't wear any, wear sunblock if you're doing that. All right, the next topic is food and drink. So sustenance, or I like to enjoy myself. So I'll cover both ends of the spectrum. Think about your normal life and how many calories you consume, and think about the fact that when you're on playa, you're probably exercising more by just walking around and the mileage you cover than you would cover in a week in each and every day. I get super hungry on playa, and food is really, really important, and how you do it, it's entirely up to you. I know friends who take canned food, they heat it in the can, eat it with a spoon, and that's how they sustain themselves. Over the years, I've done freeze-dried canned food, I've done MREs once, but for any of you who've been in the military and eaten MREs, it does terrible things to your poop. It just turns it into freaking bricks. And that chemical flavored burp that we get a few hours after, it's not something you want. But the freeze-dried options are really good. They just get a little expensive if you're going to do a week of freeze-dried food. They're really, really tasty, and taking a few of them as an emergency backup is never a bad idea. Just pour some hot water into it. It rehydrates. You eat it straight out of the container for the most part. Really good options. Now, what I do is I prepare my food ahead of time. Now, word of caution here, it's a pack it in, pack it out. We talked about leave no trace. So take as much of the packaging off at home and discard it. But again, lesson I learned the hard way, remember to keep the directions, because when you get to Playa with this packet of powder and you can't figure out what the hell you need to do with it, it gets a little hairy and you got to experiment some. So depackage as much as you can, slip it into Ziploc bags with the directions, and you'll be good to go. What I do more of is I pre-prepare and freeze my food, and I take it out there and just reheat and serve. I do that with, like, I make breakfast burritos for myself, and I'll put everything I want into it. And trust me, at my age, fiber is an important thing, so I factor that into my diet, because you don't want to be going and sitting in the freaking porta potty when it's 100 degrees outside, there's no air moving inside, and you're sitting there trying to get the old system to percolate and drop that. That's an important part. So get some good fiber in yourself so that you can get yourself regular and keep that going. It is so dry, you're going to need to hydrate extra to cover that too. Let's see. So I talked about food. The other thing is, I've tried Ziplocs. I've tried the vacuum sealing food. That works really well, because you can, if you're good at vacuum sealing food and you don't screw it up and have this tiny little air hole in it, you can boil in a bag. So you have this pot of hot water and you drop your food into it. It reheats. You cut the bag open. You eat it. It's awesome. I tried Ziplocs, and I've never been able to successfully keep my food sealed in a Ziploc bag. I switched over to Snapware probably 5 or 6 years ago. You can buy these relatively, like Costco's got a massive packet for $20, and it's a whole bunch of different sizes. I prepackage my lunch meals in those Snapware containers. They're portioned. I freeze it at home. I take it in my food cooler, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I take it out in my food cooler, and I just pull it out in the morning, let it thaw out, and then I heat it up and eat it for lunch. Dinner, and different camps do it differently. Poly Paradise does this really well. A kind of meal plan option where you prepare one or more meals for the group, and in exchange you get all your meals taken care of. That's an awesome way to do it. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of communication, and trust that your roommates will come through, that your campmates will come through. But those who do it absolutely love it. We've gotten to the point where my camp, we've got a little subgroup. We do dinners together, and I do one dinner and I get the rest of my dinners for free. So we go balls out on this. Appetizers paired with wines, the main course, desserts. Mike's putting a thumbs up because we did that at Swaraman, and it's an awesome time, because if you've got only one meal to prepare, you can really go all out on that communal meal that when you prepare it. So I'm a big proponent of meal plans. Just communicate, document everything, and I always recommend, if you're going to do all meals as a meal plan type of thing, make sure you have some backup food just in case you are off wandering somewhere when on a walkabout, when mealtime came around, you come back to camp and the lights are out and nobody's home and you're starving, have some backup food for that. Let's see, I mentioned coolers, and I want to share my screen for a moment just to show you what I do with coolers. And I would very, very strongly recommend you consider a minimum of 2 coolers. One is your food cooler. That stays closed unless you're taking food out.
Yep.
And then you've got your drink cooler that you're opening and closing all throughout the day. I've got a link here to cooler advice, and I talk about the snapware on it, and then, Coleman extreme coolers, and then now the Rotomold coolers are really good. Rotomolds are awesome. They're just hugely thick walls, and so you get a lot less space inside. So plan accordingly. Wrapping your coolers in foil of some sort. The cooler that I have now is probably on its 12th, 15th year, and I bought car sunshades, and I cut them to size and used Gorilla tape to tape it all down, bottom, top, down, sides. And I made sure that the lid is such that I can open the lid. There's a cap cooler insulation on that, and keep them off the ground. Even if you put them on 2 little cut up 2x4s, it'll really help. And make sure you keep your coolers in the shade. If you store your coolers in the sun, it's horrendous. Multiple options for ice. For many years, I did dry ice, and that's really amazing, except that your food will be rock hard and you need to plan well ahead to take it out and let it thaw. I was able to serve ice cream on Saturday, having gotten there on Monday, using dry ice and doing it well. Dry ice is very sensitive. A drop of water and that thing will just sublimate and become vapor. So be very, very careful if you're using dry ice. I switched over to ice blocks for my food cooler, and ice block lasts much longer. And what I do for my first ice block is I buy one of those square-shaped water bottles. I drain a little bit of water out of it and then freeze that bottle. And that goes into my food cooler as the initial source of ice. And it usually lasts me Sunday through Tuesday or Wednesday, at which point I take that bottle out and drink the lovely ice cold water and replace it with an ice block that I buy on Playa. The ice this year, I believe, is going to be sold in 10-pound bags for 16-pound bags for $10 a bag, and block ice is $7 a block.
No, 5.
$5 a block? Thank you. And ice is typically located at center camp, which is at the 6 o'clock hour. And then there's satellite ice at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Does anybody know if there's any additional Arctica camps? All right, so that's where it is. Ice is super efficient. Go volunteer there and you get a free bag. And you'll be, working a few hours, serving ice, running the cash register. It's a lot of fun. Really, really nice people. The bag of ice, if you're working the cooler at the back and hauling ice back and forth, I realized that the ice that they give you is for your lower back, because your back will be aching at the end of the day unless you are really strong, and I'm not. It was wonderful, though, to lay on the floor and have that bag of ice on my back after I finished work. Getting old sucks, but it's better than the alternative. If you're buying dry ice, do not go to a grocery store. They rip you off with the price of dry ice. Find an ice cream supply company. I don't know if it's still Big Boy Ice Cream Company. They keep getting bought out, but there's a really good one on Grant Avenue in Phoenix, but they have really odd hours on weekends. So make sure, I think they're closed on Sunday, but they're open limited hours. On Saturday, you're paying 10 cents on the dollar for dry ice if you're going to go that route, and that's where you want to try and get it. That's about it for the ice and the food. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, all right. You don't want to get the runs on Playa. And we aren't magically leaving the germs in the default world and going out there and thinking that things will be great. Wash your freaking hands We're not animals before you touch your food. And do not be super careful with contamination. A friend of mine, he had his steak in his drinks cooler, and a little blood leaked out into that melted ice. And he opened his bottle of beer, which was soaking in that water, drank it, and he had the runs for the next 5 days, which is just not fun when you're using a porta potty. So be super careful with things like that. That's one more reason why even my drinks, like, it kills me, the people who stick their filthy hands into ice, pull it out and pour it into that drink straight off their hands. No, take an ice scoop, take something or make an ice cup and be careful with that ice. You don't want to get sick on Playa, so watch that out really carefully. Yep, that's it. Food. Oh, if you're doing a camp, talk to your friends. If you're setting up your own camp, and share your kitchen. You don't want to bring 5 stoves for 5 people. You want to bring a primary and a backup stove. You want to have gas that matches. You want to make sure that many of these, like the Coleman propane cylinders, that's a horribly environmentally unsound way of doing gas. Get the $15 adapter hose and take a 5-gallon, the 20-pound propane barbecue canister instead. Have your primary and your backup, and do it like that. Share the kitchen so you're not bringing 15 sets of knives and plates and stuff like that. Even when we do meal plans, we BYO utensils and plates. I've gone back and forth between taking reusable plates and paper plates. If you bring a reusable plate, you got to make sure you wash that thing, and then there's gray water and black water that you got to deal with. If you bring paper plates, fold it up. I use wooden chopsticks, put them all in my trash bag, and I'm done and dusted at the end of my meal. So each to his or her own, but those are some options to keep track of. If you're doing meal plans, also discuss dietary restrictions, allergies, preferences, and stuff like that beforehand. We have everything ranging from carnivores to vegans in the camp that I'm with. And so we just make sure that the food's prepared individually. And gluten intolerance is a very common thing you have to deal with. Make sure you talk to whoever has those issues and find out what they can and cannot eat if you're preparing meals for them. And respect the vegetarians and the vegans by keeping your food prep separate if you're preparing meats also.
Thanks, Ruby.
That's it. All right.
Amazing. The only thing I would add is you're probably going to bring a lot more food than you're going to end up eating. I know that with food, with clothes, I always wash a ton of stuff that I never wore. And with food, we always end up bringing back more than because we pack too much.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the time to plan out your meals and plan out your clothing into outfits,
yep,
it gets a little better. But Lisa's right. You can't exactly go to the nearby Safeway to restock if you run short. So we always err on the side of caution and take extra.
Exactly. So we're going to take a 10-minute break right now, stretch your legs, listen to some music. I'm going to put on a recent video from the Burning Man project to give you a taste of what you're going to see and the kind of tunes that you're going to hear. And we'll start up again in 10 minutes. But be sure.
Did I stay on time?
Pardon?
Did I stay on time? Was that inside my allotment?
It kind of averaged out. You were maybe a minute over. We're good.
Thank you.
We're good. It's all good.
Hey, Ruby, could you put the URL to this doc again in the chat? Please.
So the azburners.org website is the one-stop shop for everything. If you go there, oops, I don't. And
Go ahead and play it. Ruby, I'm gonna go ahead and play this.
please do. There's the link to the newbie page. I'm going to stop sharing too. And the difference between the main burn and the temple burn and the energy around it. That's what amazing events.
That was my first year.
Past is gone. I know that. Future isn't here yet, whatever it's going to be. So, all there is this. The present. That's it, that's it, that's it, that's it, that's it. Past is gone. Future isn't here yet, whatever it's going to be. All there is this. The present.
Don't wanna get old. Don't wanna die. I'm lying there. What satisfaction? Heart poison each day. No reason to stay. Your feelings in the storm. But I can't hold. Could it be could the screen should have seen but the machines could it be the let the screen could it be I took the streets we could have been the ones who left the scene of could have been the ones who took the streets of what's that addiction? Let us know the satisfaction. Don't wanna buy gold. Don't wanna buy love. 'Cause now it's all sold. There's never enough. It's never enough.
All right, are we ready to start again? Look at all the people up there. Oh, dear. Hey guys, like seeing those legs on the couch. Welcome back, everybody. Just want to see what's come in on the chat during the break to see if there's any questions we need to answer. Ruby gave some links. Run Free, thank you, Megan, for giving the information on your sober camp Run Free. Awesome. Mobility camp. Yeah, and if you're part of the camp, feel free to add your camp name and address. And I'm thinking about just putting together a whole list for all the AZ burners. And you found out about this by being on the mailing list. So it would be nice to share. Okay, so where are we? We are at preparing to be out and about. So Ruby talked about where you're living, what you're wearing, what you're eating and drinking, but you're not going to be in your camp all day, right? And there's so much to explore and there's so much to see. You'll be out probably crazy different hours than you're used to in your normal life here at home. Like I normally go to sleep. I'm a sun up and sundown kind of person, but on Playa, it's just it just is. You know, up in the middle of the night, running around the Playa, sleeping in the middle of the afternoon. It's, you know, let your body speak to you and do what you want to do. So when you're ready to leave your little Burning Man home for the day or the evening, or even as Ruby said, you're going to go take a walk over to the Porto, especially if your camp doesn't have one within the camp, and most camps don't. So I think I'll talk about the Portos first, because part of what you want to be prepared for when you leave camp is what are you going to do if you have to go to the bathroom when you're not in your camp, when you're not at camp, or when you're not right at your Porto. I've learned, well, first of all, let me grab I meant to bring this over. Hold on a sec. Camel pack is your buddy. So a little backpack, a camel pack with the bladder in there. There, I'll show you back over here, right? With the bladder in there. And then I have all my things that I go out with, whether it's day or evening, in my camel pack, including always topping off the water because you just never know. Wrong way around. I can't go over that way. One of the things that I make sure that I always have in my camel pack is a little Porto preparation bag. I have extra toilet paper with me. I have extra hand sanitizer with me, although these days, probably all of us will be carrying hand sanitizer, right? I also carry a pee funnel. So if the Porto's kind of disgusting and I don't want to actually sit on the toilet seat, a pee funnel is something that, that if you're not born with a penis, you can actually use it to not have to sit. And I can give some links for some disposable ones of those if anybody's interested. Portos take only single ply toilet paper. And you'll hear this more than once. If it doesn't come out of your body, it doesn't belong in the porta potty. So only the fluids and stuff and the shit that's coming out of your body, and the single ply toilet paper. That's it. That's the only thing that goes in there. I greeted once with a Black Rock Girl Scout, And she gave all those instructions to everybody who was coming up, who was entering Black Rock City. Make sure that you have packed with you a Playa cup. You're gonna go to restaurants and coffee shops and bars and all sorts of places that are serving food and drink and whatever, but what you're not gonna get from them are cups or plates or silverware or anything else. You gotta bring your own. So I have a little mess kit that's in my camel pack. It's got a little spork thing inside of it. And I always have my Playa cup attached to my carabiner so that I can always get something to drink if I would like. I also have the bladder filled with water in my camel pack. I have my mask in there. I have my goggles in there if they're not around my face. I might have a little scarf. I carry extra sunscreen in there. My flashlight stays in there. What else am I missing?
Lip balm.
Oh, yes, lip balm or chapstick. You will be, definitely bring that for your lips because they'll crack like crazy. Keep yourself, and even if you are going out for what you think is a few minutes, the Playa and Black Rock City has a way of just, all the sparkly things. There's just so many things to explore and get distracted and just go. So a 5-minute excursion may turn into 3 days. So just make sure you're bringing with you what you need to be able to be radically self-reliant, and you'll be fine. The other thing to think about is wheels. Black Rock City is a really, really big place. Bicycles and walking are the 2 main modes of transportation. And I don't know how I would be on the Playa without a bicycle. So check out bikes. I don't know, Ruby, I don't know if there's any links on the page to
I
bikes.
do. I have a link called Playa Bikes. that
Okay,
gives
very
them-
good. Make sure that your
folks-
bike is lit up. Make sure that you have a bicycle lock with you. And so when you go out, even if it's for a few minutes, just to take a ride to someone else's camp or to a porto, make sure you got your bike lock with you as well. And always lock your bike before you leave it. They're known to be borrowed by other people who happen to not have a bike with them. So make sure that you're bringing a bike lock and make sure that you lock it up. That's really all I have on preparing to go out. Backpack, something to keep you warm, sunscreen, lights. Scotto, if I missed anything, you could fill in the blanks.
I would just like to add to the bike thing. If you bike in Phoenix, then biking at Burning Man is a great idea. If you do not bike in Phoenix, taking a bike to Burning Man and trying to ride back 6 miles against the wind, you'll be walking your bike and you might as well then be walking. But if you are a biker, do not take your $1,000 Cannondale to Burning Man because it will be a Cannondale. That's for sure.
Good, thank you. That probably also goes for saying, don't, if there's anything that you treasure that you want to make sure that you always have back at home, think twice about bringing it. Think 3 times about bringing it. And if you decide to bring it anyways, make sure that you got it locked up when you're not using it. Everything you bring there will be covered in dust, in playa dust, and it is highly alkaline, and you'll need to wash it with a little, with some vinegar, some diluted vinegar, in order to make sure that it doesn't continue to eat whatever it's gotten itself into.
I have a quick question
Yes.
about electric bikes.
Yes.
I mean, how do they do out there, like maintenance wise, or does the Playa dust break them down, or like, we were thinking about getting electric bikes, but we're still kind of on the fence about it because we don't know how they're gonna, boast out there.
Okay, Armelo's gonna answer that for you.
Awesome, thank you.
So we brought an electric bike last time to Burning Man, and it worked very, very well. One of my friends brought her, it's just like an e-bike, it's just an electronic bike. hers, the first one then was a 2-wheeler and it lasted 2 burns. And it probably would work again this time, but this year she bought a trike, an e-tricycle. And they work pretty good. You do have to, you know, maintenance, you have to think about where you're gonna charge it, generator, how you're gonna charge it, you know, because there's no electricity out there, obviously, except what we bring. So you have to be conscious of that kind of thing. Also lighting it up, locking it up, having a good lock, because like she said, people will borrow your bike. And sometimes it gets back home and sometimes it doesn't. So you'll definitely want to secure it if you bring a very expensive e-bike.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Multiple campmates bring e-bikes and they've been doing really well. Just please keep in mind there is a speed limit on Playa, and please follow those speed limits.
Yes.
It's, I believe, 5 miles an hour within the city
5 miles.
and 10 miles an hour out in the open Playa.
Okay, great.
No, it's 5 miles an hour, period.
5 everywhere.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's-
Any more questions on that?
Oh, that was it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oops.
Yeah, pick her up so that she's not. Oops.
There we go.
We're still here? Are we all still here? We just had a, yeah, we just had an almost tragedy, but no, we're not muted. We're good. We're good. Thanks for staying with us there, everybody. So now we're gonna move to health and hygiene. And for that subject, I want to introduce you all to my best friend Pam, also known as Nurse Tata.
Hi, everybody. Very excited for you to go. I want you to know that as far as medical goes, it's a pretty amazing place there. There are first aid stations and they are located at C at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And at 5:15 also on the Esplanade. Right behind the 5:15 Esplanade is a makeshift hospital called Rampart that has a lab, x-ray, ultrasound, what else? Pharmacy. IV fluids are at, actually, they're at the first aid station. So let me tell you how it works. First aid is just what it's called, first aid. My husband and I volunteer at first aid with medical. It's nurses, NPs, EMTs, paramedics, physicians, everybody is a volunteer. At Rampart, the hospital is all licensed professional, and that is a different animal, so to speak, where you have to be licensed by the state of Nevada, and it's a paid position. First aid is open 24 hours, 7 days a week. We do IV therapy at the first aid stations now. You don't have to go to the hospital setting. What do I want to tell you? There are also what we call rapid intervention teams out on the Playa. These are 2 member teams that are on a QVC. It's a golf cart, and they have radios. And if something happens out on the deep Playa, hopefully there's a team out there. We'll get a team out there, and they will bring you into the first aid station. You want to go to first aid before you go to Rampart, unless of course you know that it's something that needs a hospital. With that said, you can be airlifted out, you can be ambulanced out. That would be on your own dime. But anything that we do on Playa, there's no charge. And when we ask you your name, it's not to charge you or anything. You don't have to bring your insurance card. Your ticket includes your medical there. What do we see a lot of at first aid? We see a lot of cuts, people walking into rebar. We see a lot of eye, and we're going to go over your first aid kit in a minute, a lot of eye irritations. Sometimes we do see worse things, broken bones and things like that, not often. It's usually minor things that we see, sometimes a hangover. But medical is excellent, excellent. There is also something called sanctuary, which is a quiet space where it's a medically stable people would go there. You're having a bad trip, you need a quiet space, there's sanctuary. I don't know the location, but you can always ask when you're there. There's also a medical team at Thunderdome. I don't know if you're familiar with Thunderdome, but it's like, what's the name?
Mad Max.
Mad Max, yeah. It's literally a dome and there's two people fighting with foam, but it gets pretty rough. But anyways, there's a medical team there too. So let's go to your first aid kit. Everybody should bring their own first aid kit. We do have supplies at first aid, but they're limited supplies. And so, you know, we always encourage, again, self-reliance. There's a wonderful list on the site, but I'm going to tell you some things that I've added. Now, of course, I'm medical, so I probably added things that maybe some people won't, but I still think they're important things. And I don't think that you have to go exactly by the list because it was so specific when I looked it up. I mean, they have like gauze pads, 3x3, gauze pads, 4x4. I mean, you can take that if you want. The most important things that I bring, which I bring in an airtight container. You can bring I guess you could do Ziploc, but I know at the Container Store, probably many places, you can get a nice airtight container. So you want to bring nasal spray, saline nasal spray, because your nose, it's so dry out there. Even though we live in Arizona, it's really a different kind of dry with the dust. The dust is very alkaline. It's not like a dust storm here at all. You want to bring eye drops because your eyes can get irritated. You want to use your goggles. We do have friends, Andy, that does will be out in a whiteout. I don't suggest that. You wear your mask and your goggles. I always bring moleskin. I don't know if you're familiar with moleskin, but it's a lot of hikers use it. If you get a blister, you can apply moleskin. If you wear those shoes that you haven't worn yet, you get a blister, so moleskin. I bring an ice pack, one of the squeezy ones, and a heat pack just in case. I've actually never used it, not done with. Band-aids, assorted band-aids, gauze, tape. If you have steri strips, I bring steri strips only because I have access. An ACE wrap, we do have those at first aid, but we usually run out after many days. I bring vitamin C, emergency, or an electrolyte replacement if you get a little dehydrated. Triple antibiotic ointment, Neosporin, bacitracin, anything like that. Some people bring hydrocortisone cream, sunscreen, antiseptic wipes. I would bring aloe vera for if you do get sunburn. What else? Medications, if you're on prescriptions, of course, you should bring your prescriptions. Tylenol, ibuprofen, anti-diarrhea medication, laxative medication. You never know which way you're going to go if you're going to go.
Yeast
Or not.
Yeast infection medication.
Well, yeast infection, if you do, especially women, if you do develop a UTI and you come to first aid, we'll prescribe for that also. But yes, I bring an antacid. Zycam or airborne if you start to feel like you're getting sick. I always have something on board. Benadryl, chapstick. We talked about that. You want to bring a lot of camps will even gift chapstick. Tweezers, gloves. I never bring a thermometer. I saw that on the list. I guess you can. It's all up to you. Socks, because there is something called playa foot. I've seen a lot of people walking barefoot out there. I don't know how they do it, but I would never walk barefoot out there. So there's something called playa foot. It's not anything dangerous. It's kind of like a rash. And what you do to treat that, you don't need to go to first aid, but you need to do vinegar foot baths. So it's a 4-to-1, 3 parts water, 1 part vinegar, and you just soak your feet in. And you get a little wash place in a dollar store. And if you want to do that, you soak your feet, dry them off really, really good, put some lotion on, put your socks on. That is a real thing, playa foot. What else can I tell you?
I like shea butter when I use shea butter on the
Oh, shea butter,
just the wind.
right, or lotion, yeah,
Cheeks got so red the first year.
yeah, that, it's a whole different animal out there. When we say a dust storm or a whiteout, I literally want to see the screen that is what, 3 feet in front of me and in some of those whiteouts, so, I would get good masks, not hospital little, paper masks. I would protect your lungs. If you have asthma, it can be exacerbated out there. You can go to first aid, but if you have an inhaler, I bring your inhaler for that, or your nebulizer, your breathing machine, absolutely, because that environment can really exacerbate asthma. What else? Anything else anybody else can think of? Any questions about first aid? I just want to reassure you that there's always somebody on duty 24/7 in the first aid stations. It's just really alkaline. It's like silk. It's white. It's not dust like those. Are we all in Arizona? Yeah. It's not like a dust storm here at all. But you do see it coming in like a dust storm here. It's just, and it is on everything in every crack and crevice of your belongings and your body. Yes.
The sinus thing.
The nasal spray. Yeah, nasal spray. Flower.
Okay, you're pretty much at your 10 minutes, so just
Okay.
to FYI.
The only, 1 second, Scott, the only things I might add to that would be, Kara brought up yeast infection stuff. If you're prone to UTIs, definitely, bring whatever you need for that.
If you can bring an extra script for your UTI, some doctors will give you that ahead of time. Bring it with as a just in case. And to avoid that, hydrate.
And keep your parts clean, like, give yourself, you're not gonna have regular baths or regular showers every day, most likely, so bring something
Baby
to
wipes.
clean yourself, whether it's baby wipes or action
Action
wipes
wipes.
or, washcloths, and, we have a ritual every night, we boil some water and we cool it down, bring it in and just clean ourselves up, but make sure you're keeping your parts clean.
Disposable pads just to wick the moisture away.
Yeah, and disposable pads to wick the moisture away for sure.
Try to clean yourself before you get in the bed because you'll wake up to dust.
Good, thank you. I wanted to just briefly touch on, Scotto, go ahead.
Great discussion about what services are available at medical. What I want to make sure our newbies know is that there is no cost for that. And Burning Man and the Rampart staff will do everything they can to keep you at Burning Man.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
You had mentioned medications, and I think I heard the word refrigeration, but obviously Ruby had touched on pieces that he uses. If your medication needs to be kept cold and the only thing you have is a cooler, you need an airtight container to contain that piece. One of the other pieces I might recommend is Plan B. It is available over the counter. I don't know if that's available at Rampart, but always great to have it on your own.
What's it called?
Plan B.
Plan B, day after pill.
It's
Birth control. Yeah,
Oh.
not control, but
They do
close
have
to.
that. They do have, I believe they do have that. They did 2 years ago. I'm assuming that we still do, or 3 years ago, yeah.
Rat Lady's got her hand up.
I did want to say the one caveat to everything being free, if you have to be airlifted
Yeah.
out of Burning Man, that starts at $30,000 and your insurance will not pay for that. You can,
Same with ambulance and.
It all depends on your insurance.
You can buy air evac insurance ahead of time, especially for Burning Man. It's like $50. So that's something, if you've got delicate health or you take a lot of risks, you might consider that a good investment.
Hey, Rat Lady, if you've got a link to, if you can find out the details on that, I'll post that on the newbie page.
Okay.
The additional insurance, if you share that,
I'll see if I can find it.
Ruby, you had your hand up too?
Yeah, I wanted to mention, I've taken campmates to med tents for overindulging in recreational substances. I've called in rangers, I've called in medical to my camp, and don't lie to them. Tell them everything that the person has consumed, everything you know that the person has consumed. They're not law enforcement, they're not there to cite you. You're trying to save somebody's life, and lying about it may make the difference between treating that person correctly and not. So please, please don't hesitate. If a person has, dropped way too much acid, eaten mushroom by the handful, whatever it is. Heck, Swearman, Bruno, I brought him several clients, several customers at Swearman too. But please do not lie. Feel free to be absolutely truthful with the medical staff there. It could
There's
be
no
the difference between
judgment.
life and death.
Yeah, no judgment, and honesty is a must, absolutely.
Quick question. I'll have like Narcan form, like just in case emergencies and for our camp. But is that something they also have on site? I figure they do, but
You know what, I'm sure they do probably at Rampart. It's not something we would do at our little station, but I'm sure they do in their kits as well, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but your idea of bringing your own is much safer, because getting a person from wherever you're camped to medical may take too long.
Right.
So if you guys are going to party, make sure you've got what you need to get yourselves out of trouble.
Cool. Thank you.
The only thing I'd like to add to what Pam has said is that our mental health is just as taxed as our physical health there. And it's really, really easy to become overwhelmed. It's really, really easy to, I know that I've been going for more than 10 years now, and there's always one day a week that I have a meltdown. So just pay attention to your body and to yourself and to what your intuition is telling you. Do your best to pace, get rest when your body's telling you that you need to rest. There's so much going on that if you let FOMO guide you, you're gonna get sick. You're gonna get sick mentally, you're gonna get sick physically. So, and I know that Kara's gonna talk about that a little bit in a short while, but that's just as important, everybody. Hydration and rest is just super important. The next subject, and I will only take a few minutes on this, is the subject of COVID. There are no COVID rules and regulations and bans or anything like that at Burn this year. Hi Tim, thanks for coming. But it's still here, and it's still it's still infecting people, and it's infecting more people every day. Now we've got the whole thing with monkeypox, and so there's all kinds of discussion going on. And first and foremost, you got to remember the thing about radical self-reliance, and mask up if you want to mask up. If you don't want to hug, or you don't want to get a hug, or you don't want to kiss a stranger or a non-stranger, set your boundaries, just say so. And everybody's being encouraged, and talk with your camp. So camps may also are being encouraged to have their own COVID policies. Be prepared to get it, guys. Be prepared to fall, to catch COVID and to need to isolate on Playa.
5 days.
5 days once you've tested positive.
Right, yeah.
I want to encourage you to test before you leave, test before you go in the gate, and have a whole bunch of extra tests with you for during the week, just in case. Pardon?
Oh, no.
There's not gonna be, you know, rules, you're not gonna have to show your Vax card at the gate, but you might need to with your camp, depending on what your camp decides. And so remember that, and remember civic responsibility. If there's a chance that you have come down with COVID, please don't let your desire to have all the fun lead you to infecting other folks. You know, it always happens by accident, but just we've got to be more diligent this year. We just all need to be more diligent. So that's really all I wanted to say on the matter. I don't want to feel like COVID police, but we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and we need to take care of ourselves and each other and be prepared. Ruby, you have your hand up.
The other thing that I would say is I'm traveling there with 5 other people in an RV. 4 of us are going to tent it once we get there. 2 are going to live in the RV. Come up with a plan for that return journey if somebody gets infected on Playa, if somebody tests positive on Playa. Are you going to tent off and isolate the back room in the RV and put the infected people in there? Or what? What's the next option? You can't leave that person on Playa. Would it be that they like triple mask from there to Fallon or the nearest available hotel, and they get a hotel and fly themselves back? Whatever it is you decide on, plan that ahead of time so that you're not trying to figure it out on Playa with 6 friends or acquaintances or strangers that you happen to be traveling back with.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move back to Water, who's going to talk for a few minutes about the rumors and realities of sex and drugs at Burning Man. And I will get the camera back.
How many minutes? 10. Up to
Up to 10. If you got 5, that's fine.
Try to be 5. We'll see.
Sorry. Hopefully I'm not making people dizzy with this. You could go.
All right. Okay, yes, there's sex and drugs at Burning Man, but you don't have to do either. So I want to talk to you about boundaries. And because, you know, we already talked about consent, and that's for you to be to respect that. But what if you don't really know how to set those boundaries? So I really want to talk about that. Recognize your own limits with drugs, with sex. What do you want to do? Check in with yourself. There's something that I like to do. It's called a pause. Someone offers you something. Someone asks you something. Do you want to engage in this? Take a pause. Is this actually true for you? Do you really want to do this, or are you doing it to be accepted, to be loved, to be in with other people? I'm always encouraging people to check in with yourself. What do you want to do? Does this feel good to you? Can you really say, heck yes, I really want to do this? Listening to your own thoughts. If you have any thought at all that says, I'm not really sure, that's a no. So, and that's with anything. Some questions to ask yourself. What are my own values? Is this going against my own value system? And know what that is ahead of time. Know what you're actually willing to do and what you're really not. How are you in your own self-care? Lisa talked a little bit about emotional health. You know, maybe you didn't get sleep the night before. Maybe you aren't hydrated, maybe you are hungry. And, you know, now you're not able to set your boundaries as much as you normally would have. So take care of yourself always and always first. Are there some things that you started doing? You never have to complete those things. You can always say no at any time during, and especially with sexual content. maybe you just want to kiss tonight, and that's all you really want to do. You can say no at any time. And don't be afraid to say no. And sometimes it is scary, and I recognize that. I've been in situations myself where I didn't really know how to say no, but always do that pause, check in with yourself, say, I just need a break right now, and then check in with yourself and see if this is what you're really wanting to do. Say what you mean and mean what you say, you know, and sometimes this is difficult for people who aren't used to standing up for yourself or being true for yourself. Just ahead of time, what are you willing to do? You're gonna meet people. You're gonna meet all kinds of people there, and people may not be aware of consent. It's just the reality. I wish everybody was aware of consent, but the reality is somebody may cross your boundaries. And at that time, take that pause and say, wait a second, this doesn't feel good for me. Then work on staying true to yourself, or leave, and you can leave at any time also. Reconsider if you've started something and you want to stop. Just like, okay, I like this, but not that. Then say, I'm willing to do this one action, but I'm not willing to do that. And you can say that at any time. And it can be really, really tricky. Sometimes even with a sexual situation, it may actually be feeling good to you. And it could be really confusing because your body is reacting to something, but you really aren't wanting to do it. So it can get really, really confusing. So again, take that pause.
Arousal and consent are two different things.
Yes, arousal and consent are two different things. Absolutely, I like that. So knowing your own boundaries, especially when you're right in the moment, can be very hard. You can have very mixed feelings. So it's back again to that, heck yes, I really want to do this, and maybe is a no. And other people's desires can overpower you sometimes, especially if you haven't had a history of setting good boundaries, or maybe it's a new person, they're a little bit, they're excited, you're excited, and their ability to stop may not be as strong as yours. So it's, again, take that time for yourself, know what you want to do ahead of time. Alcohol, drugs, partying, all that can distort your ability to make good decisions for yourself. So again, know it's okay for you ahead of time. Protect yourself. If you are going to get into a sexual situation, make sure you're protecting yourself with condoms, birth control, if you use that, and all the barriers that you need to keep yourself safe, especially meeting people that you don't know. And you know, ask the questions. There's an acronym that I learned. It's called RBDSM. I want to teach it to you. R means relationship. If we do this, is there a relationship that's going to be affected negatively? And check in with that. The B is boundaries. What are your boundaries? Have that conversation. D, desires. What are your desires? S, STDs. What are your STDs? And those also, with that question, when's the last time you've been tested? What were you tested for? And have you had any sexual contact with anyone since the last time you were tested? All important questions. And those questions are good to ask ahead of time. And the last one is M. What does it mean? What does this mean for you if we do this today? Does this mean we're getting married tomorrow? Does this mean you'll never talk to me again? What does this mean? So our BDSM, use the acronym in having these conversations. It will really put you in a good perspective if you wanna do this or not.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, all right. Also, past trauma, and Asylum's gonna probably talk more about mental health, but you can get triggered, especially if someone is crossing your boundaries. So if you've had any kind of sexual trauma ahead of time, it's really important for you to check in with yourself. Absolutely don't want to have PTSD out in the playa. So, and Asylum's gonna talk more about mental health, but that's really what I got for to protect yourself with the sex and the drugs and the rock and roll. And well, really the house music.
All the music. Yeah, one of the myths is it's only EDM playing out there, and it's not only EDM playing out there.
Sometimes animal brings some.
We wanted to follow Water's talk on this, because you're gonna encounter all the things there. So what if you do need help? I mean, it's one thing to go and have all this confidence and yeah, I'm gonna set my boundaries and I'm radically self-reliant, but stuff happens. And so where do you go when you need help? And Rat Lady's gonna start this section by talking about what are the Rangers for?
Well, first I saw Revy, you had your hand up.
Thank you. It's real quick, 2 things. One, over the years, in a city of 80,000 people, it's probably one of the safest places you can ever go and party. But there are shitbags out there. I've had friends who've been roofied. Don't think that you're in some magical paradise where people won't do stuff like that. Please take care of yourselves and look after yourselves. I've had people accidentally consume mushrooms or acid-laced brownies or whatever it is. Ask before you, if somebody offers you something, always ask. And the last thing I would recommend is there's a group called the Bureau of Erotic Discourse, BED. If you get a chance and you see one of their sessions in the who, what, where, when, attend one of those things. I've worked with them for many years and been a representative, an advocate, a speaker. And one of the things when we were talking about experimenting at Burning Man is don't meet somebody, some random person, and go back to their RV to try out bondage for the first time, right? You want to try it out, that's great. Find a camp that does that sort of thing and do it with a group of people who do this on a regular basis and will provide you with a safe environment. You know, come up with your safe word, which is not stop or no, but like rutabaga, you know, and you establish all of those things beforehand. But like I said, Bureau of Erotic Discourse, if you see one of their presentations, they're all over the playa. Do attend, it's fully worth it. Thank you.
All righty, so who are the Black Rock Rangers? Well, you'll see this little emblem and they'll be wearing khaki. Who are they? They're volunteers just like everyone else. They've had some training and they are your interface between participants and emergency services. If you need emergency medical assistance, grab a ranger. They've got a radio, they can get it to you. If you need the fire department, grab a ranger, they can get them to you. If you need law enforcement, grab a ranger, they can get them to you. The rangers, they're not cops, they're not your mom, they're not there to babysit you, they're not there to tell you not to do something unless you're being a danger to somebody else. And then they may very likely say, hey, could you do me a favor and not do that? Because this is what's going to happen if you do. This person is going to get hurt. And they might even ask you, gee, can I take a before picture when you're getting ready to do something really dumb? But they're not going to tell you, no, you can't do that. So the Rangers are participants just like you. They're volunteers. They're putting their time in. This is their gift to the city. is to give their time acting as your liaison to those services that you need. And if you've got a problem, they're going to help you come up with your own solution. They're not going to fix it for you. They're going to help you fix it for yourself. So if you're having an issue that you cannot resolve with the camp next door, with the people across the street, feel free to grab a ranger and say, hey, you know, we're having an issue here. They're playing their music at, you know, 9,000 decibels at 3 in the morning and nobody in our camp can sleep. And work with them. They'll be happy to work with both of you guys and let the two of you come up with your own solution that works for everybody. And that's who the rangers are. You'll see them traveling in pairs. They're like boobs. They usually travel in pairs. And you'll be able to see them everywhere. They're going to be out in Deep Playa. They're going to be in center camp. They're going to be on bicycles driving through the streets. There generally will be a ranger somewhere where you can find them. The ranger headquarters is on the Esplanade. If you come straight out of center camp and make a right, they're just past the radio station before you get to Rampart. You can always go there as well. If you see something happening on the playa, if you see law enforcement doing something that concerns you, you can go to the Rangers headquarters and report that they have windows there. You can stop and say, hey, you know, I saw a cop doing this and that really bothered me and I'd like to report it. You can do that. And if you're a parent, you've lost your kid, immediately find a ranger. Tell your kid, if they lose you, immediately go find a ranger because they're going to be able to help you get reunited. Anybody have any questions about who the rangers are?
So I realized that one of the sections we neglected in this whole agenda is something really important, and that's engaging with law enforcement. So do you have any tips for people on what to do if and when they get approached by a law enforcement officer, of which there are plenty out there?
Yes, there are lots and lots of law enforcement officers out there, and there are lots more than you think there are because there's a lot of them that are not in uniform. If you are approached by law enforcement, be polite, but do some studying, know what your rights are. If they ask you, may I search your tent? You have every right to say, no, you may not. And they may get upset with that. But you still have that right. And you just want to make sure you maintain. I spent many years working in emergency medicine when I was much younger. And a lot of times people would get upset if you wouldn't give them the particular drug they were looking for or whatever. And I learned that the more calm, the more polite, the more reasonable you are, it very soon becomes obvious just exactly who the asshole is. So that's a good rule of thumb when you're dealing with law enforcement. Be polite. If they have a search warrant, if they, you know, have things they can back up, then absolutely you let them do their job. If law enforcement is interacting with someone else, stay away. Do not interject yourself into the middle of a law enforcement action. That's a very good way to get yourself hauled off the playa. You do not want to interfere with them, what they're doing. If you see them doing something that concerns you, go to the ranger headquarters and report it. Grab a ranger and report it. They will be the ones to deal with if law enforcement is behaving in inappropriate ways. That's something for ranger management and Burning Man management to deal with, not for the participants.
I have a quick question. if there is someone, if you see somebody either taking advantage of someone, or if like there is a situation where people maybe get into a fight or something like that, or if you see like a guy hit a girl or something like that, is it okay to step in and break that up, or kind of dissolve the situation? I mean, how does it work out there? Because I don't like, if I'm 6'4", 250 pounds, a lot of people look at me to like for help with stuff, and I don't want to get hauled off for helping somebody. You know what I mean?
If you feel comfortable putting yourself in between, say, a woman who's being assaulted and her assaulter, absolutely you can do that. If you do that, you're accepting the risk for that. If you see somebody being manhandled by the police, absolutely do not step in there.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. As a human being, if you see another human being in danger and being abused, you have every right, if you want to take that risk, to put yourself in the middle of that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And
Kara's going to cover some of this too.
If you see someone, or if you have someone in your camp and you think they might be a victim of domestic violence, if you think they might be the victim of a sexual assault, any of those kind of things, if you see somebody and you have a concern that a child or an elder is being abused, absolutely find a ranger and express your concerns to them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Rangers are definitely our friends. Okay, so now we're going to move to Kara, who also goes by Asylum, and she's going to talk about the role of ESD and also about kids at Burning Man.
All right, hi guys. I feel like this is a really good flow because I want to talk first about the role of Green Dot Rangers, which weren't mentioned, but I feel like it's a good segue into the topic of mental health, which is what I'm going to go into. So I am the former crisis team lead for AZ Burners, and I work for the crisis intervention team out at Black Rock City, and I also work for peer support services or peer support counseling, which is a part of human resources for Burning Man organization. So when I say crisis intervention team, the reason I want to start with Green Dot Rangers is because crisis intervention team is a team that not a lot of people know about. It's not really publicized and not talked about a lot. What we deal with primarily is suicidality, homicidality, domestic violence, and sexual assault aftermath. What we do not do is trip sit. So if people are having an adverse psychedelic experience, that's kind of where the segue is between Green Dot Rangers and crisis intervention team. So if you have a friend or you have taken too much psychedelics or whatever substance and it's going sideways, there are rangers who are specifically trained to help in those situations. And there is also a place called Zendo, which is at the 3 o'clock NC, right next to the first aid station, and also 9 o'clock NC right next to the first aid station. And that is actually a volunteer camp that is not associated with the org, but all of those people in the Zendo are specifically trained to help people if they're having an adverse psychedelic experience. So just to clarify, there are people who help with that. That is not the team that I'm on. The team that I'm on is for things that are a little bit more intense. Black Rock City is like any other city. There are things that happen. The crime rate is much lower than a city of that size, but bad things still do happen. And Like Lisa said, it is not uncommon to have a meltdown somewhere midweek, just for the average person. So imagine if that's what happens to the average person, imagine what might happen to somebody who has pre-existing mental health conditions, including psychosis and history of suicidality. So the crisis intervention team has almost 50 people on it. It's pretty large. And what we do is we carry a radio and a pager, and we work 24-hour shifts, and we are on call. If the rangers identify that this is a crisis intervention situation, as I said before, domestic violence, suicidality, homicidality, or sexual assault, they will radio us in. We will be paged, and our response time is 15 minutes from pager, and that's 24 hours a day. So what we do is we come in, we triage the situation. Rangers do a little bit of pre-triage to figure out whether it is a mental health issue or a sexual assault issue. There's actually 2 different teams within the crisis intervention team for each of those. So there's crisis intervention, and then there's the sexual assault response team, which is a totally separate team. So depending on which one of those it is, we will send out a team specific to that situation. So the sexual assault team is there to support the victim. We do not force people to make reports to law enforcement. We are there to go over the pros and cons and let the victim make the decision themselves. The only way we would have to make a report is if it was a child, an elderly person, or someone with a serious disability. Then those you do have to legally report regardless of whether the victim wants to or not. So that's how sexual assault is handled. We provide resources and everything that we can do to support those victims, whatever choice they make about reporting. On the crisis intervention side of things, we're all about triage. So we're just trying to either de-escalate a domestic violence situation and get both parties into a safe place, maybe do some mediation to make sure that this won't happen again. If it is suicidality, we try and see if that's something that we can handle on Playa. If not, we have a specific team for that that's licensed in the state of Nevada. So if there is someone who is seriously suicidal on Playa that needs to be hospitalized, we have licensed mental health professionals from Nevada that can do a petition and basically 5150 somebody into a hospital in Reno if that needs to happen. There have been people who have successfully suicided on Playa. It is something that happens. It's rare, but it does happen. So if you're concerned about someone, grab a ranger and get the crisis intervention team there. We have 8 teams every day on a 24-hour rotation pager. So you're not going to be bothering, somebody. Well, we definitely are equipped to handle it. So if you are worried about someone, definitely tell somebody. In the case of somebody who's extra violent, we will get law enforcement involved if they have assaulted someone, and we do liaison with law enforcement if charges need to be pressed and people need to be removed from Playa for being majorly assaulted. And that's basically what the crisis intervention team does. That's what I do. Before I go on, I want to make sure I covered everything, and if there's any questions about the crisis intervention team and how to get mental health help on Playa. Basically, rangers will get the crisis intervention team, so grab a ranger if you need it. Anybody have any questions before I move on from that? Was I good on my 10 minutes on that?
You were awesome.
You were awesome. Okay.
How do I get this back
I
into?
don't know.
I don't know, but you are the center of attention right here. So.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions in the chat or anything anybody wants to know more about that?
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Is there anything in the chat, Lisa?
There is not
Steven
anything in the
Schaefer
chat.
says, is everything okay here? Is a good way to interrupt the issue.
That was from before.
Okay, never
Yeah,
mind.
that was from when.
Yeah, one of the things, if you do see somebody in a fight or something like that, Even if you don't intervene in the moment, if you connect with the victim later, like after the danger has passed, you can always get support for them after the fact, right? So you saw that something happened to them and you're worried about them, then get a ranger, and we can always bring the crisis intervention team out to support them after the fact if you don't feel safe intervening in the moment. I would say that's really something vital, is like stay with the victim and, you know, see if they need support. Like, it's all confidential. It's not going to get blown out to the entire Burning Man if they see a crisis intervention team. We're just there to support people, and, you know, we even like write the reports and playa names and stuff like that. So it's completely confidential, and like, you're not going to get in trouble for getting help, basically.
Thank you.
All right, so my next topic is kids at Burning Man. This is a controversial subject, and there are a lot of people who have a lot of opinions on all sides of this. This would have been my 10th Burning Man if not for COVID, so it's going to be my 8th, and I'll have been volunteering for 7. And I brought kids to, I don't know, like 5, 6, or 7 Burning Mans. There are camps that are specifically kid friendly. The biggest one is Kids Camp or Kids Village. It's really gigantic. If you want to bring kids, that is a good option. It's also important to know that some camps are going to be, this is Fracovera, this will be his 4th or 5th burn. So some camps are going to be more kid friendly than others. Some people are going to be more comfortable than others around kids. One of the most important things to remember about kids at Burning Man is that they have all the same needs that adults have. So every single thing that you need to pack for yourself in your day pack, you're going to have to pack a second day pack for every child that you have with you. I know from personal experience that this can be kind of cumbersome because everything is like ×2 or ×3. It's kind of like when you're on an airplane and like the oxygen masks fall. Like, make sure to put the oxygen mask on the kid before you put it on yourself. So I always make sure that the kids have everything that I also need, right? So the kids need a dust mask, the kids need eye protection, the kids need ear protection, the kids need water and a snack and shade and sunscreen. And so I always make sure to get my kids ready to go before I get myself ready to go, because then I know that they're going to be okay. I do always bring a nebulizer machine, just because it has been very useful. Kids sometimes won't always wear their dust mask. I have had a child get sick on the playa, and it's just always helpful to go to emergency services if you need to, but it's always helpful to have everything that you need for a child as well in your first aid kit, like child Tylenol and things like that. So I have a funny story about having kids at Burning Man, because one of the things that people are so awkward about with kids at Burning Man is just kind of like the nudity and the sex and the drugs and all of that. So I had like 3 kids with me at Burning Man one year, and we went to the man base, and it was the one Carnival of Mirrors where the man was like extra large and wouldn't burn because he was so big. And so one of the things about that man was that it looked like his legs were hollow, and his legs were on a concrete base. And so a lot of the people were going up to the concrete base and trying to look up the leg of the man to see what was inside the leg because it was so thick. Well, me and my 3 kids, we're going up to look up the leg of the man, and there's this naked guy who's obviously intoxicated, who's literally humping the leg of the man that we're trying to go look into. Yeah, and this is something, like, if you have kids at Burning Man, you're gonna have to like navigate, because there's a lot of things going on that in the default world would be completely not PC for kids to be witnessing and things like that, which at Burning Man, like, it's just a different kind of culture, and it's almost like you have to prep your kids before getting there for things that they might see and things that they might encounter, so that they better understand what's going on. And so this guy, we were like, I had prepped my kids, and they knew I was like, you're gonna see people who aren't wearing any clothes, You're gonna see people that are acting a little funny. Maybe, you know, they had some drinks or whatever. They're doing their thing, right? So my kids, when they saw this, they're just like, oh, okay, this guy, he's just having a great time. So we went and we're right next to the guy and we look up the leg and we moved on. And it wasn't a big deal and my kids were unfazed. And that's one of the stories that I always touchstone to, because if you have prepped your kids for what they might see and things that they might encounter, they're not going to be traumatized by things that they might be traumatized by if they see that in the default world. The other thing that you're going to encounter is like other people being uncomfortable around your kids, which you have to just kind of give them the right to be uncomfortable around kids in that situation, because it's kind of consent based, right? Like, you don't have to hang out with my kids if you don't want to, but my kids are here, so this is where we are, and if you don't want to be here, then you don't have to be here, but we're like chilling. So like, you have to kind of work with people who are still maybe like in a default mindset about kids, and like there's a lot of people who think kids don't belong at Burning Man, and so you might end up having those conversations. And then one of the other things is just, you know, also just monitor your own intoxication level. There is, if children get lost at Burning Man, it's a really big deal and they close the gates and it really backs up like the whole situation. So you really want to be mindful and at least have a couple adults with you, helping you monitor where children are at, because, you know, we're going to be having fun. And I'm one of the biggest advocates of not changing your life once you have children. So like, I'm going to be having fun. My children are going to be there with me while I'm having fun. But at the same time, I have multiple eyes on those children, because the last thing I want to do is have them get lost and have the gate closed and then be the lady who closed Burning Man. So like,
We were in that exodus.
watch your kids and maintain a level of intoxication or not that's going to be pertinent to making sure those kids are taken care of. I also wanted to mention Sanctuary because I know you brought it up. Sanctuary is a part of the hospital and kind of right between Rangers and the hospital on Esplanade. It is a place where we take people who need to chill out, who are kind of like above and beyond like a Zendo situation with psychedelics. So it's kind of one of those things where you don't just go to Sanctuary, you're taken there by a team. And there also is a child respite center, which is another place that the child is taken to. You can't just take your child there if they need a break. So a child respite center is something that happens if the child gets lost or if the parent's out of control and the child has a place to go while law enforcement does whatever they need to do with regards to that situation. So Sanctuary and Child Respite Center are right next to each other, and those are two things that are there in case things go awry with children and with people. So I think that's all I have to say about children at Burning Man, and I'm open to questions about that as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Ruby, you have a question or something to add?
The kids camp,
Yes,
It's
Kidsville.
Kidsville. I believe.
Kidsville, yeah.
yeah, Kidsville.
Do you want to mention something about that?
Oh, I did
She did.
I did
Oh, I'm
mention
sorry.
that. It is, I don't know where it is placed this year, but usually the 12-step camp and the Kidsville camp, so the sober camp and the kids camp are right next to each other, around like H and 5:45. I've camped at both, so I've had both of those experiences in case anybody has questions about those experiences.
Rat lady. You're on mute.
One of my best kids at Burning Man stories is the gentleman who ran mobility camp before I got it, took his 11-year-old son for the first time. And when he got home, his mom was very gently probing. So what did you think about all the people without clothes on? And What did you think about the women without clothes on? And he was just looking at her like, what is your problem? And she finally said, well, you know, there's a lot of boobs out there. And he went, I am so over boobs.
Love it. One more thing I wanted to say is like kids aren't as fazed by Burning Man things as adults think kids will be fazed by Burning Man things. So that is, oh, and one other thing I want to mention is that kids are free at Burning Man until 12 years old. And my personal thoughts on that is that that is the perfect age to have them be free until. I have teenagers now, and what I tell them is if you feel strongly about going to Burning Man, then you'll save up $500 for your ticket. And so far, I haven't had to take a teenager to Burning Man, and I'm pretty happy about that. And so I kind of think the policy works itself out. And if you know your kid really feels strongly about Burning Man, then they can fork out the $500 for the ticket. I don't suggest forking out $500 for a teenager to go to Burning Man because it's probably not the best idea. But if they really want it, they'll show you that they do.
Cool policy. Yeah, the Black Rock Scouts are awesome. I mentioned earlier, greeting with the scout troop, and they put together scout troops at Burning Man, and they do badges and they do projects and they do volunteering, and it's amazing.
And kids can also volunteer with lamplighters, which is a really great volunteer opportunity for kids.
There's a question in the chat. Are they free? Is it 12 and under or 11 and under?
I believe it's 12 and under.
That's
Thanks.
something to check to verify with ticketing if they're interested. I want to, so now we're going to move it to Queen Boney, who's going to talk about gifting and volunteering and the AZ Burner Meetup. And then we'll probably take another quick break.
All right. Yeah, okay, so.
Oh, let me get the camera on you. Thank you so much, Kara.
Okay, gifting. Okay, we already talked about one of the major principles of Burning Man. One of the 10 principles is gifting and how this is a gifting economy and there's no money. And what that means for you as an individual person is when you arrive to Playa, there's no store to get the things you left behind. There is no, there's tons of people in camps and all kinds of things. And thanks to civil responsibility, people will help you. You won't be alone. Anyway, gifting, I got off there. So gifting, a lot of times when, one of the things we love to do is give gifts at Burning Man. And a good way to think about gifting is, sure, you could do like the chapstick, little lip gloss, or, you know, the little necklaces and the things, but you can also gift your time or your energy, or you can do a little show for someone. My first year at Burning Man, I read everything. So I really wanted to know like how things worked and how everything, so I read everything. And so I learned to walk on stilts for Burning Man because I figured that would be something cool I could do. I could like walk on stilts and play with people and do things. Well, the stilts thing, I did it. I didn't do it very much. That wasn't the best gift I had. I have better gifts. But that's the idea, right? So you might sew a bunch of little knickknacks for people, or you might see someone who needs another gift that I got my first year. I arrived on Playa. I was tired. I had been driving for almost a complete day and waiting in line for 9 hours. I don't know, it was forever. Anyway, so we finally get inside and I'm setting up my tent and I'm tired as I can be. And this lady in the tent next to me, she says, "Where's your canopy? Do you have a canopy?" And I'm like, "I don't have a canopy." And she's like, "Okay, I'll be right back." And she goes and she brings me a canopy and she's like, "Here, let's put this up." And we start putting her canopy over my tent, her extra canopy over my tent. And then this guy walks up and he's like, all right, and he has the biggest hammer I've ever seen. It was like a construction mallet hammer. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna put your stakes in. And he's hammering in my stakes and they're doing all the things. And I'm like standing there kind of in shock because I don't think I've ever had somebody like give me those kinds of resources and then do it for me. And then like that was just my introduction to Burning Man. Like, okay. So those were gifts that they gave me. And even one of the things that she did, she had boundaries, which was an amazing lesson for me too, because she said, when are you leaving? And I was like, well, I'm leaving on Monday or Tuesday, whatever. She's like, well, I'm leaving Sunday, so I'm gonna need it then, but you can use it up until then. And I'm like, cool, I know what I'm doing, I know where I'm going, and this is a great gift. So I just, when you're thinking about gifting and what you want to do when you're on Playa, think like that. You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of tchotchkes to hand out. You don't have to hand sew some things. You can offer your time, your energy, your caring, and your other skills, your other life skills. And that leads into volunteering. Volunteering. So another thing I did my first year and every year since is volunteer. So my first year I volunteered with greeters and with the artery and with the airport. And those three places, at least for me, were very easy for me to kind of get in and get to know people and do the work and feel like I'm contributing. So that was my part of the work of Swirl Man, of Big Bird, right, of the bird, this volunteering. And so it helped me have people that I could know and places that I could go to that I could feel like that were where I belonged, right? Because when you're a new person, maybe you're coming in alone, you never know. You might not know anybody and you feel a little out on the outside, you know, and things might feel flicky if you're not in. But when you volunteer, you become a part of that. My camp was amazing and I volunteered and did things with them. I camped with Holly Paradise and have for all those 4 years and will again this year. But keep in mind about volunteering. You will want to volunteer. And then are there any questions about gifting and volunteering before I talk about the third part?
The only thing I want to add to gifting is that when you receive a gift from somebody,
right.
there is no expectations that you need to give them something back. It's just receive. When you give a gift to somebody, it's because it's for the joy of giving a gift, right? So you might find this serendipitous moment that compels you to give somebody something. It might be something you brought, it might be something else that they just need, like what happened with our Mella. But it's not an exchange system, it's not a barter system, it's gifting for the joy of giving. So that's the only thing I would add.
Yes.
Carmela, can you name 5, 10 places people can volunteer in BRC?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I named airports, the artery, the greeters. There's also lamp-lighters.
Census is looking for volunteers.
The census
desperately.
department, the census department.
The ice station.
What's that?
Ice.
The ice, yep. Artery.
There's actually
Playa Info.
Arctic, Playa Info, they always need people to stand in the desks and answer questions. And you'll be surprised, even on your first burn, you will know what to tell people. You know, they make sure you have information to give people. Volunteer, there's a volunteer booth where people go and you can sign up for different shifts. That is at Center Camp. And it's on the map, but it's going to be right around Center Camp in that circle.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen really quick, just so you guys can see.
Oh yeah, there we go.
There are 27 departments
named on this sheet. And those are just talking about the actual Burning Man type things, but every camp will have something they need. Your own camp, your friend's camp, the camp across the road, you know, if you are looking to help people, you will definitely find people to help. Okay, any other questions? All right, then I'll move on to the next thing, and we are having an AZ Burner Meetup. Do you want, okay, so we're having an AZ Burner Meetup. The location will be at Walter, and it'll be Thursday, a burn week, between 4 and 6 p.m. Okay, so I hope to see you all there. It'll be a nice little thing. We're not gonna, we decided not to do potluck, right? But you could bring something to share if you like.
Ruby, you wanna, I think we concluded, bring, you know, bring drink to share if you want, bring something to share if you want, and it will also be preceded, if you're interested, by an Arizona art car art tour. So if you want to meet up at Walter at 2 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock, you might have a chance to hop on one of the art cars, do an art car tour before we get back to Walter. By 4.
So Lisa, I'm going to be driving Walter, so I can take, 40 people in that easily. Did we confirm Ian with Mojop?
We did. Mojop will be there, and we're also going to put out a call for all Arizona art cars to meet up over at Walter at 2 p.m. To do an art car tour before the Arizona meetup.
And if Big Red isn't committed anyplace else, we'll take Big Red also.
Yeah. So this will be a big Arizona meet and greet and get to know people and enjoy the art cars and the playa and all of the fabulousness. So come and bring yourself and come have fun.
Esplanade at 8 o'clock.
Is that where it is?
That will be the address. Yep.
Esplanade at 8 o'clock. Okay.
And Thursday, I don't know what the exact date is, but Thursday of Burn Week, there's a question what date it is.
September 1st.
Okay, thank you. And we'll be posting more information as details get worked out. If you're bringing something, do remember, there's no trash cans and stuff at camp, so please remember to take back your MOOP, take back leftovers. Yeah, and share it with people along the way, but do be careful.
Yes, leave no trace. That's a good point that you make. A lot of times, in the default world, you might make a casserole and take it to someone's house and be like, I'll pick up the pan later. Nope, in this case, you will take that pan with those leftovers back with you. You will take your empty potato chip bags, unless that person has a specific thing and they're like, yeah, you can put your trash in my trash. Because let's remember, we take it all home. We take all of those bags of empty potato chip bags and all of the stinky other trash. It all goes home. I personally bring I know I'm getting on another thing, it's leave no trace. I'll just be real quick, but I personally take all of my trash all the way home. For me, it's part of Poly Paradise. Because I drive the bus, the trucks and buses, so we put it in there. But for every camper who has a car and came in driving, they all take bags of trash home. That's just a thing we all do. So keep that in mind. That's the end of my part.
Awesome. So I think it's another stretch our legs moment. We'll take 10. And then when we're done, I think we're only going to have like 30, 45 minutes left. So thanks to all of you who are sticking with it. I hope it's information packed for you, and I'm really glad that you're sticking around. I'll put that same clip back on from YouTube while we do a bit of a stretch.
Lisa, can we just chat? Because I'd love to chat with people and
sure,
because we watched the video, but
yeah, but please stand up, stretch, stretch.
And honest,
the camera's on you, so do a stretch.
I've got 4 topics left. I only need maybe 20 minutes, probably 15 minutes. No, 15 minutes easily, and I'll be done.
Oh,
the number 4.
All right, so maybe we'll make it a 5-minute break instead of 10 so that we can
Sure.
make this thing, yeah.
So who here is still looking for tickets? And does anyone need vehicle passes? Because I may know somebody who's got one extra.
I have an extra.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Stephen, the Incandescent Fire Conclave Troop, they've been, they're going to be performing at the Burn. They're also mostly camping with Camp Walter, and they'll be doing some shows at Camp Walter. In fact, on Thursday night, that same night of the Burner, AZ Burner gathering, we've got our big final in-camp party. That'll be a lot of fun. If you guys are, you're all welcome to come back. And we'll have fire performances and stuff too there.
If you end up with extra vehicle passes or extra tickets, I know the Rangers can always use donations of those.
I don't
Extra
know.
tickets, I don't think are going to happen this
I
year.
know, but vehicle passes.
Vehicle
certainly.
passes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, definitely.
I learned that Stuart Woolley Neptune needs a ticket. He was at Swaroman this last rendition, and he was looking for a ticket. He's also registered for the next round of ticketing. He totally messed up on what registration meant, so he lost out on first sales. So if anyone has an extra ticket, I would like to send it on to Woolley Neptune or Stuart Preston, I think his name.
I don't know of any extra tickets, but I'll tell you what happens every year is right around now through early August, life gets in the way. People have to change plans. And if you've got to be on every single Facebook group and just constantly checking them, because somebody will say, hey, I got a ticket, who's got cash?
Right.
And cash in hand, you DM the person, you figure out how you're going to meet with that cash. Please look at the Burning Man tickets page on how to identify scammers from real tickets and how to submit a ticket to see if it's already been reported as being stolen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I would even do that from somebody you know, just because with the best of intentions, they may have bought the ticket from somebody else and not checked, and it might be an already voided ticket. You don't want to find out at the gate. Question about whether any of the AZ art cars are accessible. Mojop is. Movement of Job People.
I was confused. Is that Thursday, September 1st at Burning Man or in Phoenix?
At Burning Man.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's organizing a Phoenix gathering. There are sometimes, and that's an opportunity too for somebody who's going to be at home or staying back in Phoenix or Tucson. But yeah, people will often get together and we'll often get together and watch the live stream of the burn and stuff. So those are awesome for walking around at Playa on Playa at night, except that when you need to pee, you gotta pull all that shit off, dude.
This is how you have to pee. You have to do this.
Yeah.
And then there's a porta potty.
Yes.
Like all the layers, like all these long coats, and you're trying to maneuver in a porta potty.
Not easy.
Those are the worst ones.
This is the worst. Don't do it. What you could do, like, hold the arms. My onesie porta potty tip.
Yeah, right.
And your flashlight in your mouth.
Oh,
don't drop it.
I'll tell you, headlamp around the neck is the best
No,
thing for porta
seriously,
potties.
for women, get yourself a pee funnel.
Yeah.
Stand it. It works. Practice at home. Because, one disaster is all you need to never do that again.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
I also like to take, I get cashews. I like cashews. I get these containers with big mouth. That is my bathroom on my bike because in deep Playa, there's nothing.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They're
And like,
also-
where's the porta potty? You're looking for a tiny blue light in the midst of lights.
Yeah.
You're like wearing, and you're like, I gotta go pee right now.
They are the world's best pee jar for your tent as well.
I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
keep
I
one
was
in my
gonna say-
car. I keep one in my car in Phoenix
That was fun.
because
Oh,
I've been
yeah.
in situations
Yeah.
that I can just go in my back seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Well,
tea
shall
bottle
we
in the
go
tent
next
is
week?
super helpful
Yeah,
because
maybe we'll see you on the.
if it's freezing at 4:30 a.m., you don't want to be trudging all the way to the porta potty.
And you don't want to have to put your shoes back on.
Yeah, I don't know anything that can been and.
Yeah.
like,
Shall we
I just
move to
take
the
too much.
final
We'll see you
home
next
stretch?
week, wherever that may be.
Hopefully.
So Ruby,
Yes, ma'am.
then
Ready to rock and
now we
roll.
have you, so now we're switching gears to getting yourselves there. We've
Yeah.
looked at many aspects of being at Burning Man. Now we're gonna move to getting yourself there, and Ruby's gonna cover packing list, the vehicle or mode of transportation that you're using, when you're gonna arrive, and what you're gonna experience in what we call the gate and greeters. So take it away, Ruby.
All right, thank you. This is going to be pretty quick. This is a packing list that has grown in the 20-something years, but I switched it over to a Google spreadsheet. And there's a very important reason. This allows you to, file, save a copy, or download a copy if you prefer to work off Excel, and then build your own list. I take a lot more stuff than most people do. And some of the stuff I don't take myself, so I'll delete those rows. But there's also something I wanted to point out. Sometimes where it's useful, I'll click and hyperlink out to other places. But I also have a column called staged and packed. And the reason for that is between now and Burning Man, my long-suffering and ever so kind wife allocates space in my house to stage all the crap that I'm gathering. And so this little landfill starts growing in my house. And when I've located it in the garage or sourced it from wherever, I put it in the staged column and I check it off as something I've picked up. And the reason I have I broke it down into staged and packed because I have left stuff behind where I'd set it aside and I didn't actually pack it into the trailer or the vehicle or whatever it is. So I print this out and physically check it off when I stage it and physically check it off when I pack it. I won't go through the list. You guys can go through that. There's a lot of useful information. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. The other thing I'm going to talk about is transportation, getting there, stuff like that. I have linked to directions from Tucson to Phoenix. This is a good document to read, and it's based on many of us figuring out which way to go. There's information about, there's long gaps on certain stretches of the road between gas stations. So you might be at 3/4 tank, but you want to fill up at that gas station before you take the next leg. And let's see. I have my notes here. Where is it? Okay. Arrival. If you get there early, you're going to end up being penalized and sent to a place called D lot. D lot is just a parking lot off to the side. There'll be hundreds of other burners who made the mistake of getting there early, and they will all be there with you. Lisa, I think you've locked the presenter to your screen. Like you've highlighted your screen as a presenter because you're still the big person. So gates open at midnight on Saturday. So if you get there early, that's going to be a problem. Not a huge problem. They've got it really set up nicely now. And gate in the past has been a freaking nightmare. Like on average, we would plan for the last few years, we've been planning for like 6 hours in line. 2019, somebody who understands workflow took over gate and they completely changed it. And because they changed it, it was super efficient and there was virtually no line, and we got there a few hours early. We were shunted off to D-Lot. They were super kind, super polite, told us, you can park there and walk yourself to will call. Well, that's something to remember. If you don't have physical tickets and you need to go to will call, it's typically on the right-hand side. So you want to kind of try and be in one of those right lanes as you come in, because there'll be like 8 lanes of traffic going in. But they'll always get you across to D-Lot if you need to. You can't let somebody get out of your car and walk there ahead of time. You have to go the entire vehicle. If one person has a will call ticket, everybody has to go there. There are porta potties along the way, so certainly don't pee on the playa or worse. Just hop down, walk to the nearest porta potty. Just keep track of where your vehicle is, because when you walk into that porta potty, the line might start moving and you might not be able to find everything looks like there's a billion RVs there. Every car looks gray if there's a whiteout. So do make sure you keep track of where you are in line, where your vehicle is in line. Exodus is Sunday. Exodus gets busy after the man burns. So many people will pack their cars, and as soon as the man burns, they'll book it back to their car and start driving out. Same thing happens Sunday night after the temple burn. A whole bunch of people who have to get back to work on Tuesday, myself included. We have our vehicle ready, facing outwards, and after the temple burns, our whole crew book it back to camp, get into our vehicle, and we head out. Those lines could take a while. You could, plan on food, plan on use the porta potties as you need it, because that's going to take a little while getting out usually. Early hours of the morning, early morning, those tend to be better times for getting out. If you have a flight at noon on Sunday, you need to leave around midnight on Saturday to be safe. Do not bank on being able to, on Google Maps, what looks like a 2-hour drive being what it's going to take you to get to Reno Airport. There are BlackRock's radio stations are a good thing to tune into. They'll keep updating what the estimated time is to get off Playa. That's it for driving and Exodus. Oh, speed limits. Holy crap. When you're going through those little towns, they love us because we fund their police force with speeding tickets. If the speed limit, many of those it'll go from 75 to 65 to 55 and so on, all the way down to 15 miles an hour at times. Be at that speed limit before you reach the sign. Do not cross that line when you're doing 45 and the sign says 35 while you're still braking. When you're on Playa, look at the speed limits and follow them, because the cops will use that as a reason to pull you over. And once they pull you over, all they need to do is bring their little doggy and say the doggy triggered them to drugs or something like that. And that'll be their probable cause to start a search. And that sometimes they can be really dicks about it. I've had wonderful and positive experiences with every law enforcement person I've worked with, I've run into. I have been pulled over for apparently no reason at all. And they've, I've politely spoken with them and I've gotten out, but I haven't given them access to my vehicle and stuff like that. Now, when they bring the dog, it's a whole different ballgame. Because they'll use that as probable cause for seizures. A lot of people mistakenly think that because recreational marijuana is legal in Arizona, in Nevada, that, perfectly fine at Burning Man. Burning Man's on federal land. The federal government hasn't yet legalized marijuana, so it is technically illegal at Burning Man. don't have your roaches in the cup or the ashtray in the middle of the console where they're clearly visible, or have your car stinking of pot when you, in case you get pulled over. Exercise appropriate caution. Scotto, you've got something.
I sure do. So thanks, Ruby, for pointing out one of the most important documents is that directions. Make sure to download it, have it with you. Nobody has talked about the concept of Playa Time, which is regular time times infinity. So the moment that you can say you're on vacation, that's the start of Playa Time, meaning the packing will take longer. The drive will take longer. Know that Burning Man will be there when you get there. So get there safe. That directions document, you may Google how to get to Burning Man, and there'll be this shortcut, and it's called Jungo Road. Do not, I repeat, do not travel on Jungo Road. It is a 4-wheel drive vehicle only. If you Google Jungo Road, there's some pretty incredible videos about people navigating it. So stay away from that. Know that your last big city is Fernley. So think about where it is that you're going to buy your water, right? If you need to bring a lot of water, water weighs 8 pounds a gallon. So you may want to buy your water in Fernley. There's a 24-hour Walmart there. They know Burning Man is happening. They will have plenty of water. Once you leave Fernley, it is 80 miles of desolate desert. Not like it isn't 440 miles of desolate desert from Vegas to Fernley, but 77 miles left after you make the turn off on Route 80. Get to Burning Man safe. Somebody in the chat posted about your having your license plate not obstructed. Make sure that when you're towing a vehicle that all of your rear lights work, license plate lights, tail lights, brake lights. Do not give law enforcement a reason to pull you over.
All good, Scotto?
All good.
All right. And the Desert Rose, please.
In the past, we've bought water in Gerlach. They just started selling it. Do you know if they're going to do that this year?
I do know that they're going to do that, but I don't know the hours. So I wouldn't make that the place that you depend on when the time you roll through.
Okay, thanks.
One of the reasons we haven't used that option is because sometimes the line there is quite long. If you're going in early with the work access, that's a good point. The work access pass and you're going in early, that might be a good option. But if you're going in with everyone else, the lines there could be terrible. Same with getting gas in Gerlach. There is a gas station there. The lines could be very, very long.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, they may not set up in Gerlach for the early enter people.
If you are going in early, be very careful at night. There are cows along that road that is open range. Yep. And there have been years when we've gone in and seen 2 or 3 dead cows on the way to Burning Man. And believe me, you do not want to argue with a cow with your car.
Or the person who owns the cow.
Yeah. Besides the fact that you will have to pay for the cow.
Yes. And your vehicle.
Karen wants to say something about Exodus too.
Yeah, also on the Exodus note, be very careful driving out of there. Even if you get far away, like even if you're close to Vegas, still be careful. As somebody who's experienced a pretty bad Exodus crash, It's not uncommon for you to see RVs exploded on the side of the road on the way out of there, because people are exhausted, they're strung out, they're whatever. My personal experience was somebody with a U-Haul was driving 90 miles an hour, asleep at the wheel with their foot to the floor. And we were just going 50 and we were right out of Vegas. We're just chilling. It's like 11 p.m. We're thinking we're gonna get to Vegas, all right. Next thing you know, we got smashed in the rear end and our RV was obliterated. So just be really careful. If you're tired, get a hotel and be extra watchful all the way wherever you're going, because there are other people going just as far as you are and they are exhausted. And you never know what's gonna happen, so be very careful on the road out.
And the speed limit, we should talk about the
Yeah.
speed limit.
Yeah.
We did, yeah.
You did, okay, good.
Make sure you follow it. Get it, once you get off of 80 and all the way through to when you get to camp and back again.
And back.
Okay, then the last topic is readjusting to the default world. And I've never had that option. I work for a university and it's the busiest time of the year for us. That's why I never go in early and I'm back at work on Tuesday morning. So I get home Monday night, I get as much sleep as I can, and I'm at work on Tuesday morning. So I haven't had the luxury of decompressing. The one thing that I've heard many people say is do not make any life-changing decisions in the first 30 days after you come back. I know friends who've made this, who've quit their jobs, who've met somebody on Playa and decided to up in their life, shut down their life in whatever town they lived in and move to this place with this person they met for a week. Please, please don't do that. Okay, can somebody speak to difficulties of readjusting to the real world?
Yep, that would be me, I think. So, one thing I noticed coming back from, so you're on Playa and everything is exciting and sparkly and it's a whole different world. It really is like a different place. And you're all fresh off the Playa and you're exhausted, but you're happy and excited and maybe a little, just kind of weird. And when you get home and you're doing your normal thing and you're in your normal room with your house and you have to do dishes and all the default world stuff, it can be a little bit jarring when you first return. So it is a good idea not to make life decisions. Don't quit your job, like you said. Don't break up with your wife. Take your time. Don't make big decisions. And then just give yourself time. A lot of times we will have small gatherings here, small friend gatherings, and it's good to kind of relate, get with someone who maybe had the same experience, or even if they weren't at Burning Man, but they're just good people that you feel happy around. You wanna kind of pay attention to your own psyche and your heart and what's going on, and give yourself what you need. We also do have a decompression coming up in October. So in Arizona, tickets will go, information for tickets and things will come out soon. But it will be, we have the dates, which are October 7th through 9th. That will be decompression in Arizona on the land. So that'll be another place. And that burn is a lot less stressful, I guess, or we don't have a lot of big art, we don't have a lot of everything there, but people are there camping, experiencing and sharing with each other, and you get to tell your stories about Playa and what happened to you or what didn't happen to you, and you can get a sympathetic ear. So all of those things, you definitely want to take it easy when you come back and consciously put yourself in positions that help. And so are there any questions about that?
I would just add when you get home, at least for me, all this stuff that needs to be clean is overwhelming. And I have to get back to work right away. And usually it's my husband that ends up with the whole load. And like Armella said, just give yourself time to get it all done. There's, like Scotto said in the beginning, something about you is going to, Armella, I don't know what happened, but here you are. Something about you is about your life is going to be just, everything is different after Burning Man for many of us, not for all of us, but for many of us. And just give yourself, the luxury of letting yourself process whatever it is. I found, it's just so much fun. My life is filled with logic every day. I'm in the business world. I'm in the corporate world. I'm working with, here, I'll find it there. I'm working with a lot of executives all the time. It's all business. And at Burn, it's like, I can play dress up every single day.
Yes.
I can, just be whoever I want. I can play however I want. I can rest however I want. And it is, and coming back after that takes some time to process. So we're all here as Arizona Burner region to help each other, process all that if we need to.
Yep.
That's what Decomp's about, and I'm sure we'll have some other gatherings. So.
And I think if you're feeling sad and you're kind of lost or caught up in sadness or depression, definitely the thing to do is to reach out to someone.
Yeah.
Reach out to someone. Don't do it alone. We're here for you. And we have tabernacles here in Phoenix. I'm sure that they will start up soon again. But definitely get out. Don't just stay at home, be sad and miserable. Unless that's what you need to process. In that case, but don't be kind to yourself.
Those of you who are still on with us, who have not been before, one of the first things you're going to encounter, so after you get through gate and they look at your ticket and they make sure you don't have any stowaways or anything like that, the next stop you're going to get is greeters. And greeters is where we welcome you to Black Rock City and to Burning Man. And once you cross that line past greeters, you are a burner. I want to encourage you to take that step, if they're not speed grading, to do the dust angels and to ring the bell and just give it your all, give yourself the best entry possible. And if I'm your greeter, I'll help you do that. Wait one sec. Do we have any other questions on that stuff? And then Water wants to say something about the temple.
I do have one question. How does someone get on the tabernacle list?
Oh, I've been trying to add him for a couple times.
I've been trying. I've had 3 people trying to get me on it for about a year now.
Yeah. Can you
Like-
reach out to me? I'll look afterwards.
Yeah, reach out to Armella right after. Send
Okay.
Yeah, and if you don't know how to reach her, just send an email to arizona@burningman.org and she'll put you with the folks who run that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I wanted to talk about the temple really quick. Sassy Cat said right at the very beginning, the temple is one of the most spiritual experiences for you and also for me. I would consider myself a spiritual person, but I had never experienced anything like the Burning Man temple. I walked in there and instantly became like, I stood still for a minute and I was feeling the pulsing of the whole playa there. And it just felt like everybody's energy on the planet was in that temple. That's what it felt for me. And a lot of people bring things for maybe they lost a loved one or they want to let something go. They want to let a relationship go. I've seen baby shoes, I've seen pictures, I've seen t-shirts, I've seen things, people writing their hearts on the wall. And you know, it is heavy. Every time I've gone in there, I've just wept deeply. But you know, you could, if you feel called to, you can bring something there, or maybe bring some markers or something, a stapler to stick it there, because it will burn at the last night. And sometimes people want to put something in there that they want to let go of, or you know, send out to the universe somehow, or release, or
they want to release.
oh yeah, release. And it's anything that you want it to be. But if you want to bring something, you know, you might not know about this, so bring something if you feel like you want to burn it. And then you'll have an opportunity to do that at the Burning Man Temple. And you know, it's absolutely impossible for me to describe that experience with words, because there's no words for it. It's a magnificent symbol of impermanence, you know, and it's our greatest release. So yeah.
Thank you. All right, Scotto says 17 days till his Playa Time starts. Oh my God. I'm not too many days after that. I'm like freaking out at how unprepared I am. So yeah, that I think, so now it's time for wrap up and resources, the azburners.org website. Oh, Scotto.
So nobody has talked about these incredible water trucks that go around and spray down the dust. We've all been around a construction site and they spray down the dirt to keep the dust down. Those water trucks may look like, and you may see people showering in said water coming out of the truck. I highly don't recommend that. That comes from a pond. It is not potable water. The other thing nobody has talked about is wet playa. Absolutely avoid wet playa at every possible step. Do not ride your bike through wet playa. Playa is really gypsum. It's what they make wallboard out of. And if you know anything about wallboard, it's basically cement when it dries. So avoid wet playa. Do not take a shower underneath the water truck. That's what I got.
Scotto, I want to add to that because you're right, and nobody talked about what happens if it rains. So we talked about living situation and all that stuff. So one of the big recommendations, guys, bring a 5-gallon paint bucket, throw some kitty litter in there, because you may get stuck in your tent and not be able to walk anywhere from there. So just make sure you, and plastic bags to put over your feet in case you end up in wet playa. Just in case it rains. It has a couple times through the years, and the place comes to an utter standstill. So thanks for that reminder, Scotto. Anything else?
I had a question on like reception or like GPS trackers or anything like that. If at all, if any of it works. We were just thinking about, you know, being able to kind of like if me and my partner or me and a other friend got, you know, separated, and like do devices work out there to be able to link back up with them?
So count on them. I would say don't count on any cell phones working after the vast majority of the population arrives. If you have like radios between you that you've got set to whatever channel you want, the number one piece of advice I would have if you're concerned about getting separated from your partner is always set a re-meet place, and get yourselves back there to meet up again. Don't count on any kind of service to work. There are some like apps that kind of help you find your way around the playa, like iBurn was one of them, Time to Burn was one of them.
In your cell phone
And they work off the GPS in your cell phone.
And text messages come when they want.
Yeah, but counting on the regular service, it's not reliable. The new Elon Musk satellite things, I have no idea. My understanding about those is if you get it and you get the traveling version of it, you end up like last in line, so you may not even be able to get that service to work. I see you, Ruby. Personally, the moment the gate opens, my phone goes off. I put myself back in the days where there just wasn't anything like that. And when I go to Burning Man, it's my time to disconnect with all the other things and just be as in the moment as I possibly can. But that's just me. So Ruby, you had something to say.
100% agree with that. I tell my office knows that I'm unreachable once I'm on fire. Actually, I'm unreachable way before that. I'm unreachable when I leave Phoenix. Depending on your carrier, your mileage will vary. Verizon is a little better than others. AT&T was spotty but worked. T-Mobile was virtually useless once you're on fire. And it's fine before the crowd settles in. You'll have coverage, but Saturday night onwards, you got nothing. I would find messages coming in at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning that was sent hours and hours before. There also are potential problems like, I had no idea about this, but T-Mobile has a roaming cap on my plan. And I'd exceeded that with just leaving my Outlook and Slack and all the other communication tools we use open, and all the stuff that was auto-downloading whenever it managed to piggyback on some network. So I just turn all that stuff off. The thing, I used to turn my phone off on when I hit the playa and turn it back on only when I head home. But now we tend to use that as a camera. We tend to use it as a GPS. And so I do carry my phone with me. I just don't plan on having any coverage.
And just a hint,
Yes.
to stick your phone in a Ziploc so that it doesn't get all, completely ruined.
And have a piece of paper with your name and your camp, and like have your maybe an email address or something. The chances are most people are freaking awesome and will find it and will mail it back to you on Playa. There's a lost and found at Playa Info. I have taken so many electronics out there. And you log it, you check it in, and then even if somebody doesn't pick it up on Playa, they post what's found afterwards, and you can reach out to the person, reach out to them and get it. If you take a camera, if you take a phone, have some way for those people to contact you either on Playa or after you get home, and the chances are somebody will return it.
One really good hint is for your camera anyways, you'll probably do it for your phone, make it for your phone's cover image, is to take a picture of yourself, put your name, where your camp is, so that if it's lost, people can bring it back to you. They're traditionally, and I'll look it up, and if it's still available, we'll get it posted on the newbie page. But there has always been a way for you to get contacted in case of an emergency at home. There's specific information that you can send to a specific email address at Burning Man, tell them who you are, what your car is, where you're camping, and then direct your family to know what the email address or the phone number is to get that, if there's an emergency, and they will do their best to find you on Playa and get in contact with you. For years, my daughter had cancer. My parents and my husband's parents are very old, so that was kind of a way that we gave ourselves permission to turn everything off, because we knew that if there was a real emergency that we needed to attend to, that there would be a way to find us. So I'll find the link for that and get it to you, Ruby, for the site.
I wanted to say something about the loss thing. One thing that I've done with my friends, it was really helpful is, it's so big there. And especially at night, you can get separated. You're riding your bike and somebody stops to look at something and all of a sudden there's like lights and you can't find your friend. So what we always did when I was with somebody is we make an agreement ahead of time. If we get separated, go to the last place we went together, and then we just wait there. And that really helped with reuniting us several times.
Good idea. Good idea. So I think that's it. We've got resources listed for you on the website. I also encourage you to read the last Arizona Burners Burn After Reading, because there's a bunch of links in there with the Hive and different classes and groups and discussions that you could get into. So there is a plethora of resources out there available to you. And I hope that we have helped you this evening get a good step in the direction of burn.
Lisa, I posted the emergency contact added it to the website.
No, I'm
Just remember that there's no guarantee they'll find you in a city of 80,000 people with not exactly street addresses. If you're with a team camp, there's a greater chance. You know what we didn't talk about is camping with a camp versus open camping. And there's no right and wrong way to do that. My first few years, it was open camping, the best experiences, because I met people I would have never otherwise met. Some of us still stay in touch. Some of us chose to camp together the next few years. And so open camping is definitely an option.
That was our first year too. And there is a lot of people think you have to join a theme camp in order to go to Burning Man. You don't. You can camp in open camp. It's a lot of fun.
Right. And then theme camps have their pros and cons. There's usually dues, there's volunteer needs, there's other commitments that you have, but in exchange you often get benefits. And Scott, is Polly still taking new campers? And do you want to speak about that?
Thank you for that opportunity. Coming, if you're looking to camp with an Arizona-based camp, currently have 32 Arizona campers. polyparadise.com is still going to take a few more campers probably through the end of this week. If you're interested, please send me an email, scotto@burningman.org. Would love to chat with you about that. And it has been really great to spend this Zoom time with all of you. You're going to have the most incredible week of your life.
Yep. Well, with that, thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. If you have any questions at all, right, if there's anything still on your mind, Arizona@burningman.org will connect you with whoever you need to be connected with if we're unable to answer your question.
See you guys.
See you on the playa. See you Thursday, September 1st, 4 o'clock at Camp Walter.
Yeah.
Bye.
Mike, are you going to Burning Man this year?
No, I'm not going to be able to go this time,
Okay.
unfortunately. Probably go to decompression though.
Super. Yeah.
So hope to see you there.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you to all the presenters.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you, Ruby. Thank you, Scotto. Thank you, everybody who's here. Thank you, Rat Lady. Glad you didn't have to drive up from Tucson.
Yes.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.